to direct and guide us in all our consultations. And grant that we have in thy fear always before our eyes, and laid aside all private interests, prejudices, and partial affections, the result of all our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the Queen, the public weal, peace and tranquility on the island, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Call of the roll.
Mrs. Holness, Mr. Bartlett, Mr. Holness, Dr. Clark, Dr. Chang, Mr. Montague, Mr. Shaw, Mr. Samuda, Ms. Grange, Mrs. Williams, Mrs. Malawu-Fort, Dr. Tufton, Mr. Mackenzie, Mr. Chuck, Mr. Vaz, Mr. Warmington, yes. Mr. Hutchinson, Mr. Charles, Mr. Green, Mr. Turlong, Ms. Smith, Mr. Main, Dr. Dunn, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Davis, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brown-Burke, Dr. Charles, Mr. Chin, Mr. Clark, Mr. Cousins, Mr. Crawford, Ms. Daley, Ms. Davis, Mr. Golding, Mr. Graham, Dr. Guy, Ms. Hamilton, Ms. Hannah, Mr. Henriquez, Mr. Henry, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Davis, Mr. Montague, Mr. Lawrence, Ms. Lee, Mr. Miller, Ms. Morrison, Mrs. Malawu-Fort, Ms. Nita, Mr. Paulwell, Mr. Phillips, Dr. Davis, Dr. Phillips, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Sibbles, Mr. Slowly, Mrs. Vaz, Dr. Wheatley, Mr. Williams, Mr. Moreland, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Witter, Mr. Wright, Mr. Montague, Mrs. Malawu-Fort, Mr. Chuck, Mr. Morgan, Ms. Crawford, Mr. Clark, Ms. Hamilton, Mr. Mackenzie. Yes, I called her. Thank you.
Statements by ministers. Forgive me. Let me just pause for a moment to recognize former Senator Barbara Blake Hanna, who is joining us today and is sitting in the Well of Parliament. Welcome. Nice to have you. Statements by ministers.
Madam Speaker, there is a statement to be made by the Minister of Finance and the Public Service at a later stage. So may it please you to proceed with the agenda as stated, Madam Speaker.
Announcements.
Laid on the table of the House today are the following: Ministry Paper number 33 to 37 of 2021, entitled Cabinet Agenda Issues, dated March 1, 8, 5, 17, 22, and 29 of 2021. Annual Report of Petrojam Limited for the year 2019-2020. Annual Report of the Company's Office of Jamaica for the year 2015-2016. Annual Report on Audited Financial Statements of the Real Estate Board and the Commission of Strata Corporations for the year 2017-2018. The Auditor General's Department Analysis of the Financial Statements of the Universal Service Fund. The Integrity Commission Special Report of Investigation concerning the circumstances surrounding the grant and use of prescribed licenses and permits issued in relation to the construction and renovation of the Blue Diamond Hotel Group's Royalton Negril Resort. Report of the Joint Select Committee on its deliberations on the bill shortly entitled the Sexual Harassment Act 2020. And certified appropriations account for Head 100 His Excellency the Governor General and Staff for the year 2015-2016. Head 8,000 Independent Commission of Investigation for the year 2017-2018. Head 19,448 National Environment and Planning Agency for the year 2016-2017. And Head 7,200 Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Local Government and Community Development for the year 2015-2016.
Bills brought from the Senate.
The following is a message from the President of the Senate to the Honorable House of Representatives. I have the honor to advise the Honorable House of Representatives that on the 4th day of June 2021, a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Agro-Investment Corporation Act to entrust the functions of the Agricultural Marketing Corporation to the Agro-Investment Corporation, to repeal the Agricultural Marketing Corporation Act, and to provide for connected matters, was passed in the Senate without amendment. Signed, Thomas Tavares Finson, OJCDQCJP, President of the Senate.
Petitions, papers, reports from committees.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of the House a copy of the report of the Joint Select Committee on its deliberations on the bill shortly entitled the Sexual Harassment Act 2020.
Orally.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move, be it resolved, that the report of the Joint Select Committee on its deliberations on the bill and shortly entitled the Sexual Harassment Act 2020, which was laid on the table of the House on the 8th day of June 2021, be adopted.
Questions and answers to questions.
Madam Speaker, there are questions that I tabled that should have been answered on the first day of June. To the Honourable Minister of Health, I would like to know the status on that.
Madam Speaker, I'm aware that the Minister of Health has actually prepared the answers, and I will endeavour to ensure that those answers are had at the next sitting of the House. May it please you.
Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to sittings of the House. Motions for leave to introduce bills. Presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Public business.
Madam Speaker, public business today constitutes a number of bills to be concluded and or debated on. But also, Madam Speaker, may it please you to allow me to move a motion for the continuation of the sectoral debates at this point and to revert to the substantive order of public business after. And with your permission, Madam Speaker, the two presenters today will be the Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports and the opposition spokesperson on local government and community development. May it please you, Madam Speaker, to invite the Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport to make her sectoral presentation.
Mr. Terra, move our chair for her. Member. Thank you. Minister?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have been taught that it's when we are going through trials and tribulations that we must especially give thanks. And so in the midst of our challenges, let us continue to give God thanks. I think of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18. In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. And I would give you another version in Jamaican language, but I won't delay my presentation by doing so. Madam Speaker, the theme of my presentation in the sectoral debate for the last fiscal year was regroup, re-engineer, reopen. That succinctly captured the focus of the ministry's work in a year like no other. Having regrouped and re-engineered, we have been able to resume some activities, and we are getting ready to reopen the wider entertainment sector. The reopening will look and feel different because we have to be different to protect ourselves and each other. Additionally, we have engaged in wide consultations to ensure that the protocols will help us all to be safe. Madam Speaker, I ask for your indulgence as I create and present what we see as Jamaica Creative. I have a specially produced video, Madam Speaker, that I will ask for the presentation to be done before I continue my speech. You know, Madam Speaker, entertainment and sports aren't just fun and games. They are businesses on which many of our people depend to put food on the table. Entertainment and sports also provide therapy and release as we navigate these challenging times. Jamaica Creative. I will continue as the video is activated. The pandemic has shown us in so many ways why we must change things that we normally do and or accept in culture, gender, entertainment, and sport. We have to re-evaluate. Go ahead, please play the video.
There's just something about Jamaica. Yes, it is the land itself, rising up out of the Caribbean sea like a colorful warm promise. A place where discipline and training meets the willing spirit of the people, who not only know how to make champions from humble beginnings, but also how to win, and win graciously for everyone. But it is also the Jamaican people who have raced through time and history, producing a larger-than-life culture that lifts everyone higher and cools you down with the life-giving heartbeat reggae music. Jamaican music grabs you by the beat of your pants, moves your feet, stirs your heart, and satisfies your soul. And here in the land where 96 degrees in the shade is a joyous song, our artists craft one love from wood and metal and even the screen, as if fashioning next-level concepts, designs and style from everrocks, the sea, the sand. And yet sometimes antique pieces rise up from ages past to excite and to wow you. Our fashion designers bring the natural mystic to clothe bodies and feet, while our world-class models strut where angels fear to tread. It is not paradise, but there is a heavenly taste to the food, and that spirit in the rum makes it almost paradise. The aromas, the spices, the tastes, bring that feeling to your face. Heavenly. Here in Jamaica, the spirit of imagination whispers in the humble ears of our literary artists. Lyrical genius resounds in dub poetry and spoken word, but sometimes is as quiet as pen on paper. Either way, the voices of generations are just keyboard and mouse clicks away. Our performing artists, like soul athletes, soar with the sound, rhythm, and color to bring down this music and drama alive in places that you never even knew had a pulse. The steadiness of the Jamaican cultural and creative industry is remarkable. From the historical theatres and dramatic forms to the dance halls where we link up for feats of magical movement. The creative energy here is vibrant and alive, just like the culture. Here the race is not only for the swift, but also for the culture that endures, in an industry that is growing brighter day by day. This way of living is how we are meant to be, champions of love, life, and liberty. Jamaica boasts a diversity in culture, true to our motto, out of many, one people.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I hope that next year, when I make my presentation, I would have contributed to a state-of-the-art video equipment in this Parliament. This pandemic has shown us in so many ways why we must change things that we normally do and or accept in culture, gender, entertainment, and sport. We have to re-evaluate what we consider to be a value. We have to devise a better deal for our creative and athletic people. We have to strengthen our mechanism to support and facilitate the people in our sectors. In short, Madam Speaker, we have to be better and stronger. I give thanks for the support and guidance of the Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, as we work towards building back stronger. I give thanks for my colleague ministers in Cabinet and the ways in which we have been able to work together as one united team in the interest of all the people of Jamaica. I give thanks for my Minister of State, the Honourable Lando Terrelong, the members of the respective commissions, boards of management and advisory boards, the permanent secretary, and the team across the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, and our agencies for all that you continue to do for the people and sectors we represent. Your work has been a labor of love. I give thanks to my Central St. Catherine family, including my hard-working councillors and councillor caretakers, for their support and resilience as we work together daily to ensure the safety of the constituents in these times. I give thanks to my family for their love, their understanding, and their support. I give thanks for all the stakeholders in culture, gender affairs, entertainment, and sport. You are the reason we're here, to inspire you, to be inspired by you, and to serve you better and stronger. Madam Speaker, I thank you. You have done fantastic. We're very proud of your stewardship in this Parliament. I also want to thank the acting clerk and staff of the Houses of Parliament. Thank you so much for your support. I also use this opportunity to thank and pay maximum respect to our frontline workers who have worked so hard to keep us safe and healthy during this pandemic. I'm very pleased to work as part of a united team of members of the entertainment community, members of the Jamaican diaspora, and government entities to stage Telethon Jamaica, Together We Stand, which raised over $60 million to assist the fight against COVID-19. Madam Speaker, after fees, charges, and other expenses were deducted, we were able to transfer a little over $54 million to the National Health Fund. And there have been questions as to those funds. Well, I want to indicate, Madam Speaker, that those funds were applied to the purchase of PPEs. The funds that were sitting in an account were being held there while the health fund advanced the payment. And so those funds were used for the purpose for which they were raised. As we continue to show appreciation, Madam Speaker, I've been asked by the Minister of Health and Wellness to commission a special medal to recognize the dedicated service of our heroes on the front line in the fight against COVID. We believe it is fitting that we make this special award to those who have given great service to our nation during this pandemic. We're finalizing the details for Cabinet, and in due course, the country will be advised. So, Madam Speaker, 2020 was a year like no other. It was a horrible year. The first year of the COVID pandemic, the kind of year we never wish to see again. It was the year in which we lost several of our loved ones, several of our icons, including the man who gave reggae its name, the great singer, songwriter, performer, and producer, Toots Hibbert. We also lost the outstanding Bob Andy, Millie Small, Dobby Dobson, Gil Bailey, Bobby Digital, Dalton Brownie, and many others whom I'm unable to name because of time constraints. And earlier this year, we lost DJ extraordinaire U-Roy, the great Bunny Wailer, the pioneering Leslie, all left a void in the culture, entertainment, and sports sector that will never be filled. In the circumstances where anything that entails close bodily contact has had to be restricted, and Madam Speaker, you know we Jamaicans love to hug, and we love to enjoy each other's company. Several people in the culture, entertainment, and sports sectors have not been able to work as they normally would. Museums, theaters, cinemas, and many other entertainment entities have had to close. Live music, through which artists make much of their earnings, has been put on hold. And there's also been a prohibition against mingles, parties, and round robins. Across the cultural and creative industries, people have been home on furlough. Last week, in its quarterly briefing, the Planning Institute of Jamaica reported that since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, a total of 74,300 fewer people were employed as of January 2021 relative to January 2020. The PIOJ also reported that 9 of the 15 industry groups recorded low employment levels, including arts, entertainment, recreation, and other services, which had 18,800 fewer people employed. We know that several people in culture, entertainment, and sport operate informally. Therefore, we can say with certainty that the pandemic has affected lives and livelihoods of many more in these sectors than the official numbers suggest. Gender affairs is also significantly affected, Madam Speaker. Of the 74,300 people who have lost jobs, 40,200 are women and 34,100 are men. The effects of the pandemic have been particularly hard on women. Many women have been let go or have had to leave employment to care for children or the elderly. Additionally, the isolation and stay-at-home requirements have had the unintended consequence of locking vulnerable women and children away with men who abuse them. Under the circumstances, the Bureau of Gender Affairs has seen a twofold increase in the number of women attending its offices for help, ranging from leaving an abusive relationship, housing assistance, legal advice, financial assistance, assistance with groceries, household items, counseling, and other services. Madam Speaker, the people and sectors that the ministry, my ministry, represents have been especially affected by the crisis caused by the pandemic. Some argue quite rightly that we have been hit the hardest. This is the context in which our budget for the 2021-2022 financial year was developed. Our priorities for the year are to strengthen mechanisms to protect and help vulnerable women and men across our sectors, to facilitate a safe reopening of the wider entertainment sector, and to improve the enabling environment of our sectors to sustainably build back stronger. Our mantra this year is better and stronger. As representatives of the people, our first responsibility is to protect the vulnerable. This period has highlighted the vulnerability of some women and girls. On too many occasions, Madam Speaker, I've had to come to this House to denounce horrific acts of violence against women and girls. We continue to improve our services to victims while working to improve protection mechanisms for the vulnerable and eliminate the violence. Key in the strategy to protect vulnerable women and girls is the strengthening of laws that serve as a deterrent. In this regard, this year, we are addressing two critical pieces of legislation for which the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport has responsibility, namely the Domestic Violence Act and the Sexual Harassment Act. The amendments to the Domestic Violence Act will include a new definition of domestic violence as not only physical, but also psychological, emotional, and sexual. The effect of this important update will mean that for the first time, men or women who control their partners through threats or by restricting their personal or financial freedom could face sanctions in the same way as those who are physically violent towards them. We will also widen the threshold to be met in obtaining protection orders from the court. to give greater protection to those who need the orders to keep abusers away. We will increase the penalty, Madam Speaker, the penalty for breach of a protection order from $10,000 to $1 million. We are serious about ending domestic violence. The Chief Parliamentary Council is preparing the amendments which I expect to bring to this House before the end of this month. So, Madam Speaker, today I am very, very proud to table the report of the Joint Select Committee established to consider the Anti-Sexual Harassment Bill. Here is the report, Madam Speaker. The report contains our recommendations following extensive consultations. When this bill becomes law, it will deal a blow to sexual harassment by bringing relief to victims, punishment to perpetrators, while acting as a deterrent to others. Madam Speaker, I must commend the members of the committee. I don't want anybody to feel jealous, but this is the best Joint Select Committee that has ever been apart. They attended committee meetings, I would say 99% of the time. And this report has been signed by every single member of the committee. I am so proud of my colleagues. And I also want to commend, and when I say my colleagues, on both sides of the House. It has been a tremendous, it was work, but we enjoyed it. It was just wonderful. And I want to especially commend the technical team. They did a fantastic job, and I'm asking you all to please applaud them. So, we know that members of the public are eager for the finalization and implementation of anti-sexual harassment legislation. Therefore, I propose to begin the debate on the report and the amendments at the next sitting of the House. That is next week, Tuesday. We anticipate that the passage of the anti-sexual harassment legislation and the amended Domestic Violence Act will lead to an increase in the reports of cases of abuse, as victims who are now suffering in silence will be emboldened to make a complaint. And Madam Speaker, I just want to indicate here that the sexual harassment bill in particular is going to demand a culture change. Here in Jamaica, there are times when individuals, they don't mean to be rude. But some men like to touch. Some men like to say things. It's kind of a natural thing for our men. And, Madam Speaker, no one is telling them they can't do it. But they must be able to judge if the receiver is going to welcome it. That is going to be the test. So, I'm just saying to my colleagues, men and women, that you're going to have to think twice when this legislation is passed. Because what you do may offend the receiver. And it will require a culture change. But of course, we will have a public education program, and we will have in the legislation a fine for those who make mischief. Because there are those who will also make mischief and, accuse an individual when it is not really so. I urge as a nation to consider how we treat with any person who says that he or she has been a victim. These are instances that require great sensitivity as we examine the claim and counterclaim. In fact, I plan to reach out to the political parties. I think even at their executive level, sensitization has to be done and an understanding of this legislation. So in addition to legislative action, we're also strengthening policy initiatives to give greater protection to vulnerable women. In the last financial year, we opened the first national shelter for victims of gender-based violence. And I must tell you, Madam Speaker and colleague members, the shelter had its first baby. One of the victims had a baby just a week ago. That victim came out of an abusive situation. She came to the shelter with 3 children, and she was pregnant. And we were able to take care of her. We have another victim who came to the shelter, I think with 2 children. And after getting her medical done, we found out she's 4 months pregnant. So we're going to have to determine how we manage their situation in order to put them back on their feet and to transition them from the shelter into a normal life without them going back into that abusive situation. So we are also improving our helpline services. Well, in this financial year, Madam Speaker, we continue to work towards the opening of the 2 regional shelters, one in the east and one in the west. We're also improving our helpline services to women and men who need assistance. Heard me? Women and men. We have recently received a toll-free number from Flo, and I really want to thank Flo for responding to our request to install a toll-free line. And we have recruited helpline specialists to ensure that the lines will be manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We do not only respond to domestic abuse after it's already happened. We focus on prevention through our sensitization programs that target both women and men, including the Mentor Me 2020 mentorship program for school-age boys, which is being piloted at the Haile Selassie High and St. Andrew Technical High Schools, because we have to start with our young boys. This year, we will also strengthen the Refocus Intervention Program that targets perpetrators of domestic violence who wish to change their behavior, because there are those. A very critical part of our strategy to protect vulnerable women is to help them to become independent. Through the Women's Entrepreneurship Support Project, we will provide 10 grants to vulnerable women to start, to build businesses, and to achieve their independence. I must tell you, there is one lady who we took out of an abusive situation. And she went through training, and now she makes beautiful jewelry, and she's able to stand on her own 2 feet. I thank you and women and the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce for their partnership in this important intervention. I look forward to their continued support as we enable other women to achieve their independence. No woman, Madam Speaker, should have to be totally dependent on any man. I repeat my call for all of us, family, friends, neighbors, the community, the church, co-workers, to be more vigilant and supportive of women in situations of abuse. Our intervention can make the difference between life and death. Our silence protects only the perpetrator. And Madam Speaker, I just want to commend you for bringing a particular case to our attention. And we were happy to assist that young lady. Madam Speaker, please allow a quick update on the St. Elizabeth family. I don't know how many of you recall the St. Elizabeth family that came to national attention following, I should say, cases of child sexual abuse in one family. It involved a man of the cloth. The family was living in really desperate circumstances. We provided temporary housing as we worked to provide a permanent solution. And I'm pleased, Madam Speaker, to announce today that through the social housing program that was introduced by the Honorable Prime Minister, the most Honorable Prime Minister, and the effort of the Member of Parliament from Southeast St. Elizabeth, we have constructed a beautiful 5-bedroom house for them. And in the matter of weeks, we expect that the Prime Minister will be able to present them with their keys. Madam Speaker, this is how we serve better and stronger. Another of our first responsibilities as representatives of the people is to facilitate them in the pursuit of their dreams. Our people must not only survive, they must thrive and prosper, as we say, prosperity. And as the pandemic caused our sectors to close, we sought to provide relief to our most vulnerable. The Honourable Minister of Finance and the Public Service had approved a special support package in the sum of 40 million for the entertainment industry. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, members of the sectors were unable to access the fund due to technical issues with the electronic portal. We have now migrated to a different platform, and we are in the final phase of developing an app that will allow more members of the entertainment, culture, and creative industry to register to the e-registry and apply for grants. And Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to announce that the promised 40 million that were not accessed has now grown to 50 million. And I am still in dialogue with the Minister of Finance to see how we can further increase funding for the sector as the needs are many. And the Minister of Finance walked just in time because I know he's going to increase those funds, as indicated, that he will certainly look at increasing those funds later on in the year. Thank you, Minister. Thank you so much. The technical challenges that we experienced last year must not be taken to mean that members of the industry did not receive support from their government. We were still able to provide grants to 700 plus practitioners through the CARE program and through special grants from the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. Additionally, my ministry invested 14 million Jamaican dollars in Jamaican creatives via direct sponsorship. We're also providing direct financial support in excess of 40 million Jamaican dollars to our athletes as they prepare for the Tokyo Olympic and Paralympics Games. So far, through the Institute of Sports, we have paid out a little over 16 million in monthly payments to 87 athletes under the Athletes Assistance Program, with exactly, Madam Speaker, 45 days to go before the start of Tokyo 2021. We saw the toll on these challenging times on our athletes and sought to provide them with support to get them in the best frame of mind as they prepare for the upcoming competitions. We work closely with the Optimization Hub, which operates out of Australia, and with local mental health specialists to develop a mental health program for athletes, coaches, and their support teams. We staged a successful online seminar, which was titled Elevate the Game, Building the Muscle of the Mind. And I'm happy to report the outcomes of this intervention. Athletes, coaches, and their support teams are given the skills to cope. And importantly, there will be a new program related to mental health for coaches and athletes at the G.C. Foster College of Physical Education and Sport. The ministry will subsidize this program in the sum of $2.2 million. My ministry is also giving support to the sports sector through Independence Park Limited, which manages sports facilities at the National Stadium. IPL has been subsidizing the cost of using these facilities by as much as 50%. Independence Park Limited has supported the staging of several development meets organized by the J3 in the sum of $13.5 million. We will support the National Senior Championships in the sum of $12 million in direct funding, in addition to the subsidy for the use of the facilities at the National Stadium. And the National Senior Championship, Madam Speaker, will be held in a few weeks when our athletes will compete to qualify for the Tokyo Olympics, and these are our track and field athletes. We also assisted with the staging of boys and girls champs this year, and we're giving support to the National Premier League. The ministry is offering the Premier League Association a 50% discount on rental of the Independence Park facilities. And I think the Leader of the Opposition will acknowledge that the Premier League clubs were among the first to receive assistance in the early days of the pandemic, when each club was granted $500,000 to help their situation. And I know you are grateful. That's right. My ministry's investment in the provision of first-rate infrastructure at the national, community, and school level is essential in enabling our sports people to achieve global success. Therefore, Madam Speaker, please permit me to give an update on the maintenance and development of sports infrastructure. Madam Speaker, we had some images to be up, but there seemed to have been a little technical problem. But we are procuring a new pump for the pool at the National Aquatic Center. It should arrive and be installed by the end of the month. In the meantime, we hired divers to clean the pool so that our aquatic athletes are still able to use the facility. We recently resurfaced the running track inside the National Stadium at a cost of $60 million. The track manufacturers also created and installed an outdoor basketball court made especially for Jamaica. Wow. Madam Speaker, in spite of the pandemic, we were working. Yes. We used the opportunity to do things that did not involve large gatherings and to get the infrastructure up to date during the slow period. We will monitor the performance of that surface that was specially made for Jamaica to see if it would be suitable to replace the outdoor netball courts, which are currently far from ideal. We continue to pursue the redevelopment of the National Stadium and the Trelawney Stadium. Many people ask, what is happening to the Trelawney Stadium? Our development proposal, which is currently going through the public investment management system, will see both facilities being transformed over a period of 5 years into modern stadia with state-of-the-art facilities that will be able to sustain their operations. In fact, Madam Speaker, the Trelawney Stadium will be at the center of sports tourism and entertainment. So, Madam Speaker, we continue to invest in facilities at the grassroots level. During the last financial year, through the Sports Development Foundation, we spent $117 million to put in and upgrade sports facilities in 20 schools and communities. However, I think one of them, Madam Speaker, is at Troy, right, where we have put in a court. And that facility the school will be renamed in honor of Veronica Campbell Brown. However, Madam Speaker, our major challenge and greatest success was working with the various federations, as well as the Ministry of Health and Wellness, the Ministry of National Security, the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, and the Office of Disaster Management and Emergency Management to achieve the safe reopening of the sports sector. And I really want to thank the Minister of Local Government for the kind of dedication and time that he spent with the sector to ensure the reopening. The well-designed protocols have served to keep our athletes, coaches, and officials safe. The Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport has also facilitated the vaccination of several of our athletes and coaches as they get ready for local and international competition. And I want to thank the Minister of Health for agreeing to make the vaccine available. I use this moment to encourage everyone to continue to observe the protocols, whether they are vaccinated or not. I encourage athletes who are not yet vaccinated to do so now. Our major challenge, Madam Speaker, this year continues to be the reopening of the wider entertainment sector. We know not the hour, yet signs all foretell that the moment is nearing. Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, will make an announcement on the reopening of the entertainment sector in this House on Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. In preparation for the reopening of the wider entertainment sector, we have engaged in consultations with members of the sector as well as colleagues in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, the Ministry of National Security, the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, and the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management on the prevailing health conditions in the country, as well as the specific protocols that would have to be employed for particular activities. I thank the Prime Minister, Madam Speaker, for his involvement, for his guidance, and his support in the consultations. I could not do it without him. As with the resumption of sports, the resumption of entertainment will have to be a gradual process, and we will also have to consider capacity limits as well as authorized venues where the necessary safety protocols can be implemented. So, Madam Speaker, I just want to say to the voices out there that we're going to have to work this through. And no matter what noise is made out there, we're going to ensure it's done the right way and the safe way. And I would say the majority of the members of the sector, they understand. We are in touch. I stay in touch with the grassroots. I stay in touch with practitioners in the business. They know me, and I know them. So those who feel that they can make noise, trust me, we don't watch a noise in the market. We watch a sale. And so we will continue to stay focused, and we will reopen, but we're going to ensure we reopen at a time when it's safe to do so. Madam Speaker, in this regard, the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport has proposed a list of venues that can be retrofitted to comply with the proposed protocols. We will also be moving to declaring additional entertainment zones and venues. Additionally, as with the sports sector, the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport is offering to subsidize the use of these facilities as a stimulus for the entertainment sector, which we know has suffered because of the pandemic. These venues include facilities at Independence Park, Trelawney Stadium, the Port Royal Entertainment Zone, including Fort Rocky and Fort Charles, as well as Civil Heritage Park. We're still finalizing the arrangements while continuing consultations with stakeholders for the reopening of the wider entertainment sector and will make the appropriate announcements soon. While we have spent months, Madam Speaker, discussing and refining proposals for the safe reopening of the wider entertainment sector, we have also been busy building the capacity of members of the sector to enable them to build back stronger. During Reggae Month, the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport hosted 4 business of entertainment symposia as part of our capacity building initiatives. Additionally, through the Creative Production and Training Center, we have provided scholarships to enable 6 audio engineers to upskill and receive certification. There's a transformative power in art which we want to unleash on communities across Jamaica. The Jamaica Creative Paint Up Your Creative Space mural project, which commenced in December 2019, has been engaging communities in the Kingston metropolitan region through strategically located works of public art while simultaneously providing economic opportunities for our artists. Under the project, murals have been mounted at the Norman Manley International Airport, at Temple Lane in downtown Kingston, in Port Royal, at Sabina Park, and at the complex of the Public Broadcasting Corporation of Jamaica in Halfway Tree. The project has so far engaged 40 Jamaican muralists, including our internationally acclaimed Touch Francis and Matthew McCarthy. In partnership with the Carib Cement Company and the Embassy of Mexico in Jamaica, the next phase of the project will see a mural being erected on the silo located at Rockford Complex. You know those silos?
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the member's time be extended sufficiently to allow her to complete her presentation. May it please.
The question before the House is that the member be given sufficient time to complete her presentation. Those in favor? Those against? Minister?
Madam Speaker, the silos at the cement company, I don't know if you know those huge structures there. We, in partnership with the cement company, will be putting murals on those silos. So wherever, if you're coming from the airport, you're going to the airport, wherever, there will be this landmark, which is going to be fantastic. What is so fantastic about this piece of work that is being commissioned? It's being done jointly by Mexico's renowned muralist, along with Jamaica's internationally known muralist. So it will be a work of art that depicts Mexico and Jamaica and the bond which we have shared over the years. Our public art has also included the erection of statues in tribute to outstanding Jamaicans, including Usain Bolt and Shelley Ann Fraser. And this year, Madam Speaker, we will erect a life-size bust in Duana Vale, Trelawney, in tribute to Violet Moss Solomon, affectionately called Envy. She was the record holder for the world's oldest living person and oldest living woman until her passing in 2017 at the age of 117 years and 189 days. And so we have the maquette on display in the foyer here, and you're free to take a good look at it. In partnership with the Urban Development Corporation, we will also be developing public art for the newly opened Harmony Beach Park in Montego Bay, St. James. In this regard, we will be relocating Fitzharrick's piece, Spirit of Togetherness, which the Most Honorable Edward Seaga had commissioned to celebrate Jamaica 21. This is the huge art piece that is now housed in the middle of the roundabout by the Sangster International Airport. It will be relocated from there, it will be restored, and it will be placed at the entrance of Harmony Beach Park. We will also soon announce plans for a series of monuments to outstanding Jamaicans as part of the Jamaica 60 Legacy Program. Madam Speaker, we have used this period to strengthen our institutions to offer better service to the people and sectors that our ministry represents. Our efforts at modernizing the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission are bearing fruit. The JCDC is now 95% digitized in its processes. For the first time this year, the Commission will accept entries for its various competitions leading up to the Jamaica Festival in completely digital form. Additionally, we are investing in an e-commerce platform for the JCDC's website where it will be able to sell products to support its activities. We have invested heavily in the Commission's live stream capacity to the point where it is now beginning to earn revenue from streams of various activities of the JCDC and the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. And Madam Speaker, we have put the necessary processes in place to enable the JCDC for the first time to have the entries in the festival song competition available for purchase and streaming on 30 digital platforms across the world. The JCDC is now earning royalties. The competitors are now earning royalties. And we are now compliant, as we should be, within the music industry. We have made the JCDC better and stronger, and there's more to come. Madam Speaker, the Creative Production and Training Center continues to play a major role in national life. It facilitates the national political debates and produces hundreds of hours of national events programming, as well as cultural content each year, including Reggae Month, the Independence Grand Gala, the Hill and Guddy Ride, among others. The CPTC is now in need of retooling. And with the support of the Chase Fund, we are now modernizing and strengthening the CPTC with new studio and ENG equipment, as well as outside broadcasting facilities. The CPTC must be better and stronger. Madam Speaker, I wish to make reference at this time to give an update on reparations. We are especially pleased to announce that we have made further steps in our strides towards seeking reparatory justice for the victims and descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. On Tuesday, March 9, 2021, the National Council on Reparations and the ministry staff, along with members from the Attorney General Chambers, met to discuss the way forward regarding the petition and supporting documents prepared by the legal team of the Honorable Mike Henry, which seek reparatory justice for slavery from the United Kingdom. The petition is to be presented to the Queen of the United Kingdom and or the government of the UK. It was agreed from the 2018 meeting with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade that the Attorney General's Chamber would need to weigh the merits of the petition in the eventuality of the government of Jamaica involvement in the petition, and that it would be the responsibility of the AG Chambers to file the petition on behalf of the people of Jamaica. The talks are ongoing, and the NCR, which is the National Council on Reparations, who holds the mandate to advise the government of Jamaica on matters of reparations, are in full support of this way forward. Madam Speaker, a full report will be presented in Parliament on the progress that we have made since Parliament unanimously supported the resolution brought by MP Mike Henry, the Honourable Mike Henry OJ, and we were mandated to bring regular reports to Parliament. And that fulsome report will come to Parliament with a printed booklet which can be distributed widely. Now, Madam Speaker, I'm winding down, but I just want to indicate that I am going to ask the orderlies to distribute the packages. I could not outdo the Minister of Health. But because we are the creative ministry, we have some packages here that I'll ask the orderlies that, they can distribute. And I just want to draw your attention to the exhibition in the foyer. We have in the foyer, from the National Gallery of Jamaica, ceremonial musical instruments by Ras Everett Brown and Clinton Brown. From the Jamaica Music Museum, we have a solid state guitar invented by our own Jamaican, Headley Jones, and other independence-era musical instruments. From the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission, we have a collection of miniature Junkuno dolls and Miss Lou dolls. From the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, we have an exhibition titled Road to Independence Collection. The New York Times Special Advertisement Supplement, which was sponsored by the government of Jamaica a day before Independence Day, August 6, 1962, entitled Jamaica, Birth of a New Nation. We have a souvenir cup which was given to the children, all the children in Jamaica, on August 6, 1962, Independence. And we also have Independence Day coins that were used in Jamaica prior to 1969. Wow. So we have the 1 penny, 1950, the 3 pence, 1952, the half penny, 1954, the 2 shillings, 1967, the new pence, and the 1 pound. We have also a tin cup that was used in the primary school during break and lunchtime. We have the NOLA reading book. We have a fragment of a writing slate and pencil. We have a book telling the story on the 2 cousins, Norman Manley and Sir Alexander Bustamante, entitled From When We Were Boys, written by Jackie Ranston. And we have a stoneware ink jar and 2 pen nibs. Some of you here in the house wouldn't know what we're talking about. Please go take a look. Please go take a look. And we have the paper money that has been phased out, some becoming coins and some no longer in circulation. And, Madam Speaker, from the Natural History Museum of Jamaica, which I'm going to encourage all of you to go and visit the Natural History Museum, we have the Shark Jaws exhibit. And let me tell you what that is. It features the jaw of a shark caught in 1799. Amazingly, when caught, the shark's belly contained papers that were used as evidence to convict a smuggler. These papers are housed in the collections of the National Library of Jamaica. But what happened was when the man went to court, he almost got away, except that somebody caught the shark and found the papers in the shark's belly and handed it over to the authorities. And this is a real story. Madam Speaker, we also have another interesting exhibit. Madam Speaker, we have specimen of cannabis sativa, ganja, in the lobby. Ganja or marijuana, as it is commonly called in Jamaica, was scientifically designated its Latin name by Carl Linnaeus in 1753 in the publication Species Plantarum. The plant is classified in the family Cannabaceae and is typically a shrub. It's really a shrub. It has several subspecies and varieties that are found across the world. But the plant is a native of the Asian continent and was introduced into Jamaica. In Jamaica, it is used as a sacrament, of course, in the Rastafarian religion. Its fiber has also been used to make craft items, and its active compounds used to make medicines. In Jamaica, we have 3 strains, and those are housed in the Natural History Museum. And from the ACIJ, we have a pull-up banner on Black River. And of course, from the National Museum of Jamaica, we have 2 new door panels. So I want you to just take a look and inform yourself. Now, the Jamaica National Heritage Trust has produced a second edition of the very well done Jamaica Heritage in Pictures publication. And I'm going to ask for a couple copies to be brought here because I have just a couple of special presentations to make. This new edition includes a special feature on the Blue and John Crow Mountains, Jamaica's only World Heritage Site. The Trust is also finalizing the dossier to nominate the sunken city of Port Royal to the World Heritage List. It is also undertaking important development work at Fort Rocky and the Civil Heritage Park. The JNHT is better and stronger. Madam Speaker, we have made exciting upgrades, as I said earlier, to the Natural History Museum, which needed extensive refurbishing. It is now a state-of-the-art space, highlighting some of Jamaica's unique biodiversity. The gallery now incorporates special effects, multimedia, interactive technology, 3D imagery, and nature sounds. I am really encouraging all of you to go visit it. I thank the Chase Fund, the Tourism Enhancement Fund, Minister Bartlett, government and people of Japan, and Amazing Concrete Finishes for the support in the upgrades to the National History Museum. We look forward to the Prime Minister officially opening the facility and the new exhibition when we're able to resume the operation of museums across the country. So, Madam Speaker, this is the new edition of Jamaica Heritage in Pictures. I'm encouraging all of you, when you're taking a trip, these are available for purchase. They make beautiful gifts. But I will make available to Prime Minister just arrived to get his copy. Prime Minister, Heritage in Pictures, it's all for you, sir. And I have a copy for the Leader of the Opposition as well. All right? Will you please? I have copies for others, but I will not say at this time. Prime Minister, you came just in time because I have a lovely bag package for you. Right? Thank you. And I want to thank my creative team for putting together my speech. If you notice, colleagues, pop art. Yes. And if you go through, we pop colors. Yes. Prime Minister, we pop colors, right? That's right. So, it's all about Jamaica Creative. Right. So, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, we look forward to the Prime Minister officially opening the Natural History Museum. And at that time, we will continue with the Jamaica exhibition at the National Gallery of Jamaica. In the meantime, the National Gallery is putting together a virtual Jamaica exhibition for all of us to view and be inspired by the evolution of Jamaican popular music. And in the package that will be handed to you, we have catalog, we have beautiful catalog on the Jamaica exhibition, which you will find very informative on the evolution of Jamaican music. Madam Speaker, the Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission is now fully compliant with the World Anti-Doping Agency. What this means is that Jamaica's credibility can no longer be questioned when it comes to doping in sports. The JADCO 2021 rules have been prepared, sent for gazetting, and will soon come into effect. I urge athletes and their coaches to get familiar with the new rules, as they most certainly will get familiar with the JADCO's new mobile unit, one of only 2 mobile anti-doping testing facilities in the world. The unit has been put to use at athletic meets taking place at the National Stadium. JADCO is better and stronger. Madam Speaker, I continue to talk about the transformation of the Institute of Sports, which was once considered a rogue agency. Everybody in this house knows that. For the first time in 30 years, InSports has prepared annual reports. The reports cover the period 2017-2018, 2018-2019, and 2019-2020. Pending an audit, I expect to table the reports in the House once it is approved by Cabinet. Despite the pandemic, InSports is still fulfilling its mandate of developing sports at the grassroots level. Last year, it staged its popular summer sports program in small groups across the island, featuring netball, football, cricket, tennis. We added new disciplines as well, golf and surfing. InSports is also developing a virtual physical education program to be broadcast on air and online. InSports is better and stronger. The Women's Center of Jamaica Foundation helps teenage mothers and pregnant teenagers to complete their education and put their lives back on track. The Women's Center recently completed construction of its new facility in Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth, at a cost of $36 million. Madam Speaker, the center is now looking to furnish the property to facilitate school with the young mothers and their babies. Additionally, the center is looking to equip each of the 300 girls on its register with tablets to facilitate their learning. Madam Speaker, I must tell you that the youngest participant in this program is 13 years old. She recently had a baby. So can you imagine at what age she got pregnant? And that is the work of the center. girls who have been abused, or girls who have been experimenting. The center helps these young girls to go through their pregnancy while they're going through their classes and continue to be educated. And once they have had their babies, we have nurseries where we keep the babies and we continue to educate the girls. And once they get to a certain level, we work with the Ministry of Education to get them back into the education system. As I wind down, Madam Speaker, I want to spend a few moments reflecting on our people's resilience and their ability to rise above challenges. When a teenager becomes pregnant, it can feel like her life has ended. But we are here to help give adolescent mothers another chance at education while helping them to be good parents. I am pleased to report that the first adolescent mothers who receive scholarships through the Women's Center of Jamaica's A-Stream program to do tertiary studies have successfully completed their courses of study. One is a registered nurse and the other is a science teacher. Those are success stories. And one of the first graduates of the Women's Center Foundation program is our very own Sharon Coburn Robinson, who now heads the Bureau of Gender Affairs. Madam Speaker, we celebrated the publication New Voices, selected by Lorna Goodison, Jamaica's Poet Laureate, which won the Caribbean Readers Award for 2020. We welcome our new laureate, Olive Sr., and announce that soon there will be a junior Poet Laureate of Jamaica as we expand the program under the leadership of our Honorable Minister of State, Orlando Terrelong. Madam Speaker, we're thrilled that Tony Ann Singh created history. She's Miss World for 2 years in a row after COVID disrupted her reign and our lives. Reggae girl Khadija Shaw lifted our spirits when she scored 22 goals to win the French League's Golden Boot for top goal scorer of the season. In a matter of 6 days, Brianna Williams set 3 national under-20 100 meters records. And Shelley Ann Fraser set one of the best records of all. She clocked 10.63 in the 100 meters right here in Kingston on the weekend to become the fastest woman alive. Madam Speaker, we have so much for which we can be proud. So, it has been a hard road to travel, but we have never been daunted by the challenges that come our way. We boast an ancestry of resilience and pride. We have overcome very serious obstacles in our journey to freedom, independence, and global acclaim. We have given some of our best minds to the world while providing the world with the global mantra of one love. Through investment in culture, entertainment, and sport, where we have global competitive advantage, supported by a robust program to reduce gender violence and promote gender equality, we are determined to create a platform on which our people will rebuild their lives and livelihoods better and stronger. The upcoming celebrations of our 60th anniversary of independence in 2022, along with the commemoration of the 215th anniversary of the abolition of the transatlantic trade in Africans, and the 190th anniversary of the Sam Sharp War, all provide the impetus for the excitement that will surround our reopening better and stronger. Nothing has stimulated our sector more than having to overcome obstacles. Much of what we have created emerge in periods of social and economic challenges. Some of our greatest creations and expansive global achievement have resulted from our response to obstacles placed in our path. From Marcus Garvey to Bob Marley to Jimmy Cliff to Orlando Patterson to Louise Bennett to Aggie Bernard to Usain Bolt to Shelley and Fraser, among so many others, our brand has remained formidable, dynamic, and extraordinary. We created reggae music and used it to redefine the world as we know it. Everywhere, Irie became a part of brand Jamaica as culture, entertainment, and sport asserted themselves as the foremost elements of our nation brand and revenue. And so, our sectors are ready to reopen, Madam Speaker, better and stronger. The past year has taught us, among other things, that nothing will be excluded as long as it assists in raising the bar. As such, we are committed to leaving no one behind. It will be all hands on deck, better and stronger. Madam Speaker, as I close, I just want to say to my colleagues, I hope you enjoy the gifts that we have brought for you today. I'm going to ask the orderly to present to the Prime Minister his special package, and to the Leader of the Opposition his package, and then the others can be
Minister Grange,
collected or be given.
No,
right.
Madam.
So that's the Prime Minister's package, and of course, right. Yes.
Minister, I'm going to ask you to give the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, and I want to say thanks on behalf of all of us. But since we have another speaker and some more business, it's going to be so distracting. So I'm going to ask the rest of us to just collect our packages afterwards. Thank you.
Starting with Jamaica 59 this summer and then onwards to Jamaica 60, we will combine virtual and physical platforms, secure portals and applications that will ultimately ensure that we harness our dynamic cultural force and create a windfall of income for people and revenue to our country. In all this, the sleeping giant of culture, entertainment, and sport, caused to hibernate during this pandemic, will awaken and reassert itself, unleashing a ferment of better and stronger activities that will serve to reposition purposefully the national agenda of prosperity for all. Madam Speaker, as I open, I close.
Madam Speaker, I'm sure the House is unanimous in the view that this has been an excellent presentation from the Minister of Culture, Gender and Sports. Now, Madam Speaker, may it please you to invite the opposition spokesperson on local government to make her presentation.
And may I again, on behalf of all of us, thank the Minister for an excellent presentation and her generous gift to us all. Thank you so much. Member Daley.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, today I rise to give thanks despite the challenges of the last 18 months. We can still come together in this House to work on behalf of the people of Jamaica. It has been a time of suffering. We have mourned many untimely deaths from COVID-19 and murders. We have seen so many dreams delayed or derailed. Our job as parliamentarians is even more important at such a time like this. Proverbs 3 verse 27 tells us, "Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is in the power of your hands to do so." Madam Speaker, I believe in service above self and lifting our people towards a better life and a brighter future. Many have supported me on my journey in service to this beloved country. First, I must say thanks to the Almighty who has sustained and strengthened me. His mercy and grace keep me going. I thank the leader of the opposition, Mark Goulden, for the trust he has placed in me as a spokesperson for the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. I salute my colleagues on both sides of the aisle for your continued support. Madam Speaker, I thank you for your leadership, your guidance, and your kindness, especially towards me. To my beloved constituent of St. Catherine Eastern, there is no greater joy or honor than to serve you as your Member of Parliament. To my executive team, His Worship the Mayor, Councillor Norman Scott, Councillor Keisha Lewis, Councillor Enos Lawrence, and Councillor Donovan Guy, I am proud to have each of you on my team. To my supporting staff at the constituency office, Cherise, Sanjay, and Daniel, my driver Dave, who lost his mother recently, my condolences to you and your family. My security detail, Tennant and Robbie, thank you for always having my back. Madam Speaker, I'm grateful for my family here and abroad, for their love and support that has sustained me over the years. To the clerk of the Houses of Parliament and staff who continue to serve us faithfully, thank you for all your support. Madam Speaker, I want to recognize the Honourable Minister Desmond McKenzie for leading the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. Like me, Minister McKenzie has come up through the ranks and served as a councillor for many years. Madam Speaker, COVID-19 has taken a toll on Jamaica. Many are paralyzed by fear as they watch the bodies of COVID victims piled up nearly 970 and still counting. Madam Speaker, we pray for the souls we lost. We are thankful for the lives spared, and we send our boundless gratitude to our heroes on the front line who healed the sick and saved lives. We are forever indebted to our doctors, our nurses, porters, health aid, ambulance drivers, social workers, fire brigade, and the police who risk it all to save lives. COVID-19 has challenged us beyond measures, but we are a resilient people. When faced with challenges, no matter how tough, we collect ourselves, we adjust, we step out with determination and courage. Madam Speaker, please permit me to speak a little about my constituency, or else I will not be able to go back. I continue to pay special attention to the elderly and the most vulnerable. Every month we provide care packages for over 200 elderly persons to help them cope with the difficulties caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. We have extended the care packages program to include the young mothers and the unemployed. An additional 600 packages were allocated from our COVID allocation. Madam Speaker, Even though learning institutions are closed, we continue to provide educational assistance from my CDF allocation. We partnered with schools throughout the constituency to help with challenges that exist. In partnership with Councillor Keisha Lewis and the Larriston Division, a health fair was held with expectation of school being reopened. We provided dental care, we did check-up for the elderly and the students, and we also had the Registrar General Department to provide information and service. The event was a success, despite restrictions and the COVID-19 protocols. Madam Speaker, the Universal Access Fund has reviewed the community-based internet access point in my constituency. Though we believe that 5 locations, believe me, would fill the needs, we are grateful for the 2 promises. But guess what? Minister, I am publicly asking you to ensure that promise made will be kept. We made some improvement in infrastructure across the constituency. We removed some of the zinc fences in the communities of Dallas Lane and Mount Street in the vicinity of the St. Jago High School. We are erecting a wall around the football field in the Delaware City through community-based organization and the Tourism Enhancement Fund. When we can, we truck waters to the affected communities. We continue to make representation for roads that are in deplorable condition. Due to the lack of funds, little drain cleaning has been done over the period. Last week, I got a letter advising that there is an allocation of $1 million. This is a drop in the bucket, but guess what? I am thankful. I am hoping, though, that more funds will urgently be allocated for drain cleaning as the hurricane season is upon us and is predicted to be highly active. Persons have received help from the allocation we received from the Ministry of Labour and RADA. To the Minister of Housing, I'm very happy he's here today. We are still waiting on the allocation that was promised to provide the building materials for the constituency. Now that we are in a rainy season, it is more urgent than before. Madam Speaker, assistance was promised from the social intervention program. Prime Minister, remember you announcing about the ZOZO and the SOE, especially in these volatile areas. Constituency. This is still not forthcoming. I remind you, the Bible warns us in the book of Proverbs again, that the devil finds work for idle hands. Unemployment is a major problem in my constituency. Our young people have very little hope. We have to ensure that we bring hope to them. Madam Speaker, I now turn to my portfolio responsibility of local government and community development. Please permit me to give you a short overview of the history of local government. Local government as an institution has existed for approximately 350 years. The initial system was copied from England. However, after the Morant Bay Rebellion in 1865, the local government system in Jamaica was reformed. A parochial board system was put in place, and in 1867, the 14 parishes that are now in existence today were established. Madam Speaker, there have been significant achievements, including the entrenchment of local government in the Constitution. However, there remains a great deal of work to be done. The main policy objective must be the implementation of mechanisms to ensure effective service delivery and full participation in governance. To accomplish this, part of the current reform process must be an honest and open examination of the service delivery functions and the division of responsibilities between central and local government. This examination should be based on the principle of effective representation, value for every dollar spent, effective and efficient service delivery, a supportive and empowering environment for community development and economic growth. Madam Speaker, the role of local government cannot be separated from national development. The primary role of local government should be that of providing essential municipal services to all our citizens. Another role of local government must be the promotion of economic and social development and community participation in national programs. Madam Speaker, today I will touch on some of the services delivered, though time will not allow me to speak on all. I will now turn to the markets and arcades. Madam Speaker, last week there was a video circulating, and I'm certain that all of us, or most of us, would have seen it, showing serious flooding taking place in the St. Anne Market in Brownstown. Madam Speaker, the time has come for us to modernize our markets. While several markets across the island was upgraded and some work has been done, but just let us look on many of our markets. And don't let anybody fool you. I love our culture and our tradition. For decades, we see the same bibs, the same head ties, the same selling on the ground. It is like nothing has changed since the early post-slavery days. While I love to see the ladies in bright bibs and pretty head ties, let us move them from the ground. Give them proper stalls, running water, and proper sanitary facilities. Renovate and upgrade the markets, educate and empower the vendors, and make our markets clean and safe space to conduct business. Give these very important and essential Jamaicans the respect they deserve. We get lawyers out there, we get doctors, we get all different professions coming out of that same market. Even more importantly, clean market, Madam Speaker, promotes food safety and better health. I now turn to the Jamaica Fire Brigade. Madam Speaker, recently it was reported in the media that a fire brigade truck caught fire while responding to a bushfire in Trelawney. I tell you. Many of our fire trucks, Minister, have seen better days and really need to be replaced. Let me be clear. While we are in full agreement with improvements such as the use of drones to help in our firefighting efforts, our priority should be in getting better equipped and reliable fire trucks deployed across the island. But on a different note, Madam Speaker, To augment our emergency services, we need to train more paramedics to work in the fire department. Their assistance would be invaluable in emergency and disasters. I believe fewer persons would need to go to the hospitals for assessment or based on any kind of minor care. They should be the first responders available. We know what it is like in the hospitals, especially now. This will free up our medical staff in the hospital to attend to persons with more critical needs. Office of the Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. Madam Speaker, we are now at the start of another hurricane season, and ODPM is still without a managing director. The experts say 17 named storms are expected this year. This predicts that 8 will become hurricanes and 4 of them will be major hurricanes. The ODPM need good leadership, not political actors. It is important we stop piling emergency supplies and get our shelters ready for any upcoming disaster. Madam Minister, we need to hear about the state of our preparation before it is too late. I now turn to National Solid Waste Management Authority. Madam Speaker, solid waste management is a major responsibility of government. It requires appropriate organizational capacity and cooperation between numerous stakeholders in the private and public sector. Although it is so essential to public health and environmental protection, the National Solid Waste Management Authority is not operating in a satisfactory manner. Too many Jamaicans are forced to live with uncollected garbage and smoke from dumps. Madam Speaker, every other street can almost be classified as a mini dump. The skips are overflowing with uncollected garbage for days and sometimes weeks. And what is bad, Madam Speaker, they continue to paint our skips into black, green, and gold, our Jamaican color. Don't do that to our color. We need to get proper work done, and then we could put joy and pride on those skips. Most of the streets have been taken off the schedule for street sweeping. The curb and channels that were once maintained are no longer being taken care of. Our people deserve better. We are failing the people who need our support. A concern I hear very often, Madam Speaker, from our sanitation workers is the lack of proper gears and equipment. Many of them are exposed to toxin and dangerous chemicals. This is unacceptable. We must do better, Madam Chair. Madam Speaker, I am told that some supplementary contractors, and I want to hear if this is mischief now, have not been paid money owed to them for over 6 fortnights. This has caused a backup in the garbage in many communities, Madam Speaker. Some contractors are in debt to their creditors and workers and are unable to fulfill their family obligations. Madam Speaker, the Parliament needs to know what is happening at National Solid Waste Management Authority. Why aren't the contractors being paid on time for work done? Also, Madam Speaker, I can remember in 2015, a state-of-the-art fire suppression system was installed at the Riverton City Dump. Is this fire suppression system still in operation? if it is so, why are there so many fires at the landfill? Madam Speaker, the frequent fires, those officially reported, and a lot that have not been reported, should be concerned to all of us. Who is monitoring these dumps? We on this side believe the public have a right to know. And let me say if this is mischief again. Madam Speaker, I remember, and I'm sure a lot of the members can recall that in July 2019, amid much fanfare, there was an announcement of a project by the cement company to convert discarded tires into energy. Oh, yes. Is that a mischief again? I would like to know if this project is still on.
Don't remember.
Madam Speaker, gully cleaning. Madam Speaker, in March last year, you'll get a time to tell me if it's mischief. Yes. Madam Speaker, in March last year, the Minister of Finance announced that the government has allocated $320 million to clean all gullies in the corporate area. He also said that there would be a gully maintenance program. Minister, what has happened to those funds? The poor state of the gullies, including the Sandy Gully, were highlighted by the Observer in a story headline, "Don't blame the National Solid Waste Management Authority for gully disgrace." In that article, the executive director of the National Solid Waste, Audley Gordon, said payment of the funds was delayed. Payment, you want to talk louder? Payment of the funds was delayed. Madam Speaker, I know the challenges and the risks created by those who continue to dump garbage in our gullies, but we must hold people accountable. That's right. I am therefore recommending that we establish, and that was long overdue too, a municipal court, a ticketing system, hire more litter wardens, get more enforcement officers, engage communities with a massive public awareness campaign, just like what we do with the how to exercise and what we must do. Start to give them. And how to the Jamaica move and we move up and we get all scale to weigh now. Let us know, Madam Chairman, publicly educate our nation about keeping our country clean. Madam Speaker, with urbanization across Jamaica, we have to make sure that we step up to the task. Our National Solid Waste Agency must keep up and ensure that garbage collection and disposal are regular and efficient. Let me hear now if I mischief again. I turn now to the parochial revenue funds.
All right, problem.
Madam Speaker, by law, from I was there, the parochial revenue funds are to be sent to the various municipalities each month. And I don't want to hear about the 3 strategic laws right now. Recently, different municipalities have complained about receiving their allocation up to 3 to 4 months late. Late payment hinders the council from offsetting their monthly expenses. Minister, you must intervene and ensure that the allocations are paid on time. No municipality can function without adequate funds. And I must tell you, Madam Speaker, many times I see people come to my office saying that they come to collect their little much and there is no funds. Some come as far from Geisel, and they have to go back home. Not even with fear, because they come with the hope to get their pay. So we really and truly have to understand that these people live from hand to mouth, and they must be, you must be able for them to be reliable, the accounts to be reliable. And exactly so. Madam Speaker, I now move to the homeless people. It is something very close to my heart. The cleaner reported recently that there are about 2,000 homeless people in Jamaica, with around 700 of them in Kingston alone. On any day in downtown Kingston, not far away from here, scores of them wander from day to day downtown. Many of them are mentally ill, others are substance abusers, and some have sadly just fallen on hard times. On January 25th, we woke up to the chilling news of the brutal murder of 4 homeless men in Kingston. For many of us, it was a sad and harsh reminder of how vulnerable the homeless are. That is why, Minister, I support the construction of the Adult Transitional Center being built in downtown Kingston and the other shelters across Jamaica. Madam Speaker, we have to go a little further. We need to have an extensive survey done to determine the true number of homeless people across the island. We need to know where they are and the type of service required, including social workers and psychologists. Some may just need a little help, while some might need more long-term intervention to get back on their feet. The goal, Madam Speaker, and our goal should not be an expansion of homeless facilities, but real intervention to get them in their own homes in a position where they can live meaningful lives. Madam Speaker, through you, I wish to ask the Honourable Minister about the plans and process of the vaccination for our homeless population. Madam Speaker, while it is not a part of my portfolio duties, permit me to say a few words on the farm work program. And it is such a good day for me because all the ministers are very much in their house. In the Honourable Ministers of Labour and Social Security debate, he proposed certain changes to the distribution of farm work tickets. The impression was given that councils would be cut out of this process. Madam Speaker, for years, councils played a critical role in the selection process. It is of concern that instead of increasing their allotment, the aim is to cut them out completely. Such a move would be a wretch. I said, such a move. I don't say it is true. Such a move would be a retrograde step and not in keeping with good practices. Minister, I know you will do what you can. Minister, I know you will do what you can to address this matter in an amicable way.
You must be uncovered, so you don't treat yourself. Those are better years.
Madam Speaker, I ask that the presenter be given sufficient time to complete her presentation.
The question before the House is that the member be given sufficient time to complete her presentation. Those in favor?
God
Those
bless
against?
you.
The ayes have it.
God bless you. Rural water. Madam Speaker, I am told that each parish council get approximately $300,000 per month for trucking of waters in the various communities. If we really believe water is life, we must ensure that the supply to our people are more adequate and sustained. While we welcome the establishment of the water shops and the distribution of the tanks, we need to focus on a system that is more accessible to all residents. Some of the persons who need the service cannot afford to travel to these water shops. We need to provide the municipalities with more water trucks. Instead of we hiring all different trucks to the council, why we don't buy the trucks and have them so that they will be able to supply the needs in the various communities. Madam Speaker, there are so many other issues that time will not permit me to speak on them today. In the week ahead, I will raise the issues relating to rural electrification, parks, Building and Town Planning Act, the poor relief, the parochial roads, which almost 75% of our roads in Jamaica are parochial roads, and infirmaries. Madam Speaker, no other area of government impacts the daily life of citizens as significantly as local government. Local authorities are more responsive and accountable to the people as there is more community engagement. They are responsible for the orderly balance of sustainable development, the community, and the boosting of economic activity. A well-funded and efficient local government will foster inclusive growth and ensure that no citizen is left behind. In closing, Madam Speaker, each of us has a sacred duty to ensure that all our people can raise their standard of living and have a happy and productive life. We must strive to give our children the best possible education, provide better and more affordable health care, create an economy that works for both rich and the poor, provide small businesses with the tools to grow and achieve success, protect and preserve the environment, and ensure that our air and water are clean. Make Jamaica the safest and best place to live, work, raise family, and do business. Madam Speaker, every child in Eastern St. Catherine, every Jamaican must know that if you dream big, if you work hard, if you believe in yourself, you can achieve anything you want. We have a great country and a great people. We have overcome so much with our strong faith and belief in God and our resilience. Madam Speaker, I believe with all my heart that despite the challenges, our hopes burn bright. If we unite in purpose and action, we can build a Jamaica, a better and prosperous Jamaica. May God bless this beautiful island, Jamaica, and our people. I have no gift, madam, but I bring my love to all of you. My love is good enough.
House Leader? House Leader? House Leader? I saw.
Madam Speaker?
Yes.
I want to just thank the member for her excellent presentation. So, Madam Speaker, may I ask for the recommittal of, on the public business, Madam Speaker, I just wish to indicate that the Honourable Delroy Chuck has indicated that he will not proceed with the 2 judication bills that's listed on today's agenda. However, he is asking for notices of motion, given orally, to be recommitted to enable him to table 2 new bills. Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is that the item notices of motion given be recommitted. Notices of motions given orally be recommitted. Go ahead. The question before the House is? Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Minister Cho.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move to introduce and have read the first time a bill shortly entitled the Legal Aid, Fees, Validation and Indemnification Act 2021. Madam Speaker, I also beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move to introduce and have read the first time a bill shortly entitled the Extradition Amendment Act 2021. I think they should be circulated in long form. Okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker. They should be circulated. Yes. I brought them down myself. In long form. They're in long form. The Judicature? You wanted?
Madam Speaker?
Madam Speaker, in relation to the 2 bills that have been tabled, there's no intention to close today, but I'll be happy if members would like to contribute.
Before we do, we have an item, statements by ministers, and we were asked to say, may we have the recommittal of the statements, and then we can go to the contribution. Okay. The question before the House, therefore, is that the item, statements by ministers, be recommitted. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. Minister Clark.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes, they are available. Hey, hello.
So do we have copies of your statement for the opposition, for myself?
Yes, Madam Speaker, they're right here. I'm sure the orderlies will soon distribute them. Thank you, Madam. Madam Speaker, in March 2020, after the first case of COVID-19 was diagnosed in Jamaica, this government moved swiftly to build a program to mitigate the impact of the pandemic and that of the necessary measures to combat the pandemic. The government, through a multi-agency team led by the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, developed from scratch the CARE program, which brought economic and social support to approximately 500,000 Jamaicans. On December 31, 2020, the World Health Organization announced the first vaccine for use under the emergency use listing. This marked a seminal shift in the global fight against the pandemic. Subsequent approvals for vaccines followed relatively quickly, and this was the first time in recorded history that vaccines had been developed and approved within such a short time span, and consequently has had varying reactions around the world. Governments, including here in Jamaica, have prioritized senior citizens as the devastating effect that COVID-19 has on that group has long been recognized. Madam Speaker, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a disproportionately fatal impact on persons aged 60 and over. Figures from the Ministry of Health show that for Jamaica, 75% of those who have died from COVID-19 are from among the group aged 60 and over, 75%. There were 974 deaths from COVID-19 up to the 5th of June, of which 733 persons were aged 60 and over. Another way of looking at it on the same dynamic, Madam Speaker, is that whereas, according to from figures from the Ministry of Health, only 0.6% of those aged 60 and under who contracted COVID-19 died, 0.6% of those under 60. When you look at those over 60, 8%, or 1 in 12 of those over 60 died. Madam Speaker, in other words, the fatality rate for those infected with the novel coronavirus who are over the age of 60, the Jamaican experience is that they have a fatality rate that is 13 times higher than those who are aged under 60. In addition, Madam Speaker, the Jamaican cohort aged 60 and over constitutes no more than 14% of Jamaica's population. However, approximately 1/2 or 50% of all those who had to be hospitalized due to COVID-19 are in the over 60 category. So the over 60 cohort is 14% of the population, but makes up 50% of the hospital population. And if you were to add the hospitalization and the death numbers and divide it by the number of people who were infected, which I'm doing right now, 16.5% of those over 60, 17%, almost 1 in 5, are either hospitalized or died as a result of COVID-19. Madam Speaker, the COVID restrictions exist to prevent the exhaustion of the capacity of the health system. And given that 50% of the hospitalized are over 60, if we vaccinate this population, the likelihood of the health system coming under stress reduces significantly. And we've heard the Minister of Health say that. We've heard the Prime Minister say that. Madam Speaker, this pandemic does not end in Jamaica until a large majority of persons in the over 60 population is vaccinated. I'll come into that. It is in the public interest, therefore, Madam Speaker, that this segment of the population that is vulnerable to COVID-19 is fully vaccinated. Madam Speaker, through the Serve Jamaica program, we intend to build on the CARE program infrastructure to provide an incentive for those persons 60 and over to become fully vaccinated. In my opening budget presentation, Madam Speaker, I announced a conditional cash transfer for the vaccinated, which will pay an incentive of $10,000 to persons 60 and over who have been fully vaccinated through the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Madam Speaker, as I indicated just now, and I indicated in my budget presentation, there's a public interest in ensuring that this population is protected. And Madam Speaker, just to remind you of some of the details from the Ministry of Health, as of the 5th of June, 159,615 Jamaicans received the first shot of the vaccine. Of that number, 42,254 were in the group age 60 and over. But of that number, as at June 5th, 7,052 have received the second shot. So of the 350,000 persons in the cohort, age 60 and above, so far 350, only 7,052 so far are fully vaccinated. And that is 2% of that demographic group. So, Madam Speaker, this is something that the government needs to do to provide an extra incentive for people to go and be vaccinated. But that alone is not enough. We need the collaboration and cooperation of all members of parliament here in your constituencies to encourage, and here I'm speaking as if, I'm endorsing what the Minister of Health drive, because I want to see the economy open up. The restrictions don't go until this vulnerable population is no longer vulnerable. Right? So in addition to what we're doing here, we encourage members of parliament to encourage your constituents who are in this demographic to sign up and help them to sign up for the grant. And that's $10,000 they'll get. In a single household, in a single yard, you might be able to have 6, 7, 8 people each getting $10,000. And with your assistance, as you did with the CARE program last year, I'm confident that it will be successful. No, Madam Speaker, there's a modification to what, in my budget presentation, we had said we would limit it to those with income 1.5 million or less. But that created some confusion, Madam Speaker, as if this was a social program, and we were tying a social program with vaccination. And so, how could you tie a social? No. That's not what this is. This is not a social program. This is an incentive to be vaccinated. That is what it is. Start and finish. And because it's an incentive to be vaccinated, we're taking away the income qualification. So, Madam Speaker, just some details on the arrangements for accessing this program. The program will be administered digitally using the CARE platform. Persons aged 60 and over who are fully vaccinated, so they have their card and they've gotten the 2 shots, in the case of Pfizer. If we do get some other ones that have 1 shot, from 1 shot would do for those vaccines. As evidenced by the Ministry of Health, they're welcome to apply for the CCTV grant starting on the 15th of July. So right now, there are only 7,000 people who would qualify anyway. We're hoping that by the time the platform opens on the 15th of July, that 7,000, Minister, could be 20, 30,000 or thereabouts. And let's hope. And the platform will then open. The persons aged 60 and over will need to log on to the WeCare platform at www.wecare.gov.jm and provide, along with their first and last names, their TRN or their government-issued identification, their date of birth, their mobile number or the number that they have access to. If they have an email address, it's not mandatory, but they can provide that. And then the card that you get from the Ministry of Health has the vaccination type, and so far it's all been AstraZeneca, but in the future, who knows, there could be others, and the batch number. And the batch number is on the card that you get from the Ministry of Health. And then to indicate your preferred method of payment, a commercial bank and a remittance. And if you have any doubts about your commercial bank account, indicate a remittance company. For those selecting bank accounts, it's essential that the bank account selected is in the same name as the person who is applying. So the person who's over 60, you can't put down your grandchild's bank account or your niece's bank account or your nephew's bank account. You will not be able to get the grant, the $10,000, if you do that. We've had the experience before. And hopefully we all, including the government, will have learned from it. On application, the applicants will be provided with a unique reference number, which they should keep because that will be used to track the progress of their application and allow for queries to be responded to. The website does not require any data plan or credit to log on to it, 0 rated. So it won't cost you any money if you go on a mobile phone to access the website. Madam Speaker, as in with the CARE program, the persons will be communicated with by SMS text message to say it has been approved and it has been transferred, etc. And again, either through the bank or remittance companies. Now, given this demographic group, it's quite possible that there are persons who will be physically unable to get to a remittance company. And so from the beginning, we're building in third-party collection under the following conditions. There has to be a signed letter stamped from a JP authorizing someone to collect on their behalf, and the person collecting has to have a valid government-issued identification, as well as identification of the person who is so authorizing. Customer service queries will be handled by the Ministry of Finance's customer care team, and we'll have many up. We will have this in the public domain, but I'll just say it here for completeness: 1-888-4-WE-CARE or 1-888-493-2273. Madam Speaker, as with the CARE program, we'll invite the Auditor General's Department to conduct concurrent audits. That is to audit the CCTV program while it is being executed. And the Auditor General will have access to the system and all of its data, and will be able to audit the eligibility, the validation, and other processes, and produce their reports, which will be tabled in Parliament. We know from the experience of the CARE program that this can slow down the actual payments, but the continued transparency and openness around the program to the highest levels of scrutiny continues to provide public confidence in a fair and even-handed process. And there's no doubt there will be errors and there will be things that will be pointed out. The point is not to hide away from those. As they are pointed out, corrections and amends will be made. So, Madam Speaker, that is the $10,000 per person for persons aged 60 and over who have been fully vaccinated. That includes you, Madam Speaker. Yes, that includes you. Who have been fully vaccinated with Ministry of Health records. And you, Deputy Prime Minister, you are eligible. All the seniors, yes. There are quite a few people in here who are eligible. Mikhail, you have to wait a few years. A few years for you. So, Madam Speaker, just a few words to update on the Set Cash Grant. The Honourable House is aware that the Set Cash Grant provides unemployment support for persons who earned at or below the income tax threshold and have been unemployed as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic from any sector of the economy, and the Best Cash Grants that support tourism employment. As these, Madam Speaker, were renewed for the period April to June of 2021, and $3 billion was set aside in the budget for this. This period, Madam Speaker, for new applications for these two components will close on the 13th of June. So what we said was that we'll continue the program April, May, and June. Applications for new applicants close on the 13th of June, which is this Sunday, and advertisements to this effect have been in the public domain for the past few weeks. All existing applicants who were already in receipt of payments under the SET and Best Cash programs will not need to reapply for the period April to June, as long as they're not showing up on a payroll, right? Once they're in the system, they will automatically qualify for the $18,000 monthly payment, as long as they're ruled eligible and in keeping with originally defined criteria. Madam Speaker, we have approximately 40,000 existing Set Cash beneficiaries and approximately 15,000 Best Cash beneficiaries. And we expect all applicants with respect to the months of April, May, and June for those payments to begin in the end of June. So, Madam Speaker, under the Serve Jamaica program, we expect approximately 55,000 Jamaicans who have had the unfortunate experience of having lost their employment during the time of COVID to be in receipt of their Set Cash and Best Cash grants of $18,000 per month in respect of the period April to June of 2021, which will be paid in the months of June, July, and August of 2021. And we expect this to cost in the region of $3 billion. The final numbers, Madam Speaker, will depend on meeting the qualifying criteria because the economy is picking up, jobs are returning. As the Minister spoke about last week, tourism jobs in particular are returning. So it could be the case that those who had qualified and were on the Set Cash payroll as at January when we come to look at the data as at April or May, they may be on the payroll and therefore they won't be eligible. So we will report to Parliament on the final numbers as we go through the verification and eligibility process. But the good news is that we are set up for 55,000 persons, Madam Speaker, many of them in the tourism belt from Westmoreland and Trelawney and St. James and Portland and St. Anne and St. Mary, who live in communities where many people, it's not one person in the community, but the next door neighbor and the neighbor after that and the neighbor after that, two, a husband and a wife who were persons tending to rooms or to landscape or to the bartending or to various other jobs in the tourism sector who lost their job as a result of COVID-19, and many as well, working in warehouses and in manufacturing in Kingston and other parts of Jamaica. Over 55,000 of them can expect to receive a total of $3 billion, $18,000 a month for the period April to June 2021. Madam Speaker, the government continues to provide economic and social support in the face of the pandemic. And the good news, though, Madam Speaker, is that we, as we speak, are in the midst of an economic recovery. The Planning Institute of Jamaica is projecting growth of at least 7% for this quarter, April to June of 2021. And there's every indication that this will be realized. And all well-thinking Jamaicans must be hoping that this indeed is realized. And we have seen the figures from Statin that the employment numbers are picking up, but we need to just continue to give a little support to those who still have not recovered their jobs. Madam Speaker, what is critically important as we are on the cusp of economic recovery is that Jamaica's vaccination program is successful so that we can look to the future with confidence, and hence the cash incentive to all over 60 to be fully vaccinated. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, the opposition has no issue with the provision of an incentive to try and get more persons to be vaccinated. We have seen across the world in other jurisdictions, some countries, some states are offering lotteries where your name is put in a draw. Others are offering cash incentives. So I don't have an issue with the principle. I do have some concerns, though, because the method of payment, which I understand electronically, is probably the most difficult for this grouping. And I wanted to ask the Minister, from the CARE program, you had indicated before that a number of persons had either not collected or had not received for a number of reasons. And I suspect, I think all of us know, if people who applied, they definitely wanted the money. So if they haven't gotten it, is something wrong with their application. I wanted to find out what percentage, how many persons were in that category, and whether some consideration can be given. While I understand the ease of the electronic transfer, it is going to be particularly difficult for this grouping. I was just looking at my own vaccination card, which I'm fully vaccinated, and you indicated the batch number has to be put in the system. I mean, I'm struggling to make out my batch number, just as an example. And I would also ask the Minister of Health, we all got this, which is paper-based, but the extent to which your database is foolproof so that people can bandole this as a way of getting this $10,000 payment. So, Minister, I have no issue with the incentive, but I think we have to put some greater thinking around the particular age group and how we can assist them and how we can make the application process easier for them so that they can actually get it.
There should be a non-online option.
Right? Yeah, I was going to say there should be, whether it be through Ministry of Labour offices or otherwise, an opportunity for people to physically go in. Yeah. Because the reality is that the people who can easily do this probably don't need it. And the ones who need it are struggling to actually get online and do it. Yeah. I would also say, Minister, your extension of the set cash and the BEST program, no problem with that. But there are a whole cross-section of people who are not under this program, who are really feeling the most vulnerable because they have no work,
no compassion,
no income, no nothing. And those persons feeling the weight of the increased prices, feeling the weight of not having no income for 15 months, what consideration is going to be given for that group? And how much of the money that you had set aside for care that wasn't taken up that could probably be reallocated to this group for the next 3 months? The FAO has said food prices are at the highest level in 10 years globally. We have had increases in gasoline, electricity, food prices, everything has come together right now. So the group that has no income, that don't qualify for Best Star Set, that group needs some help. And I would put to you, Minister, that you need to figure out a way, whether it's through the Ministry of Labour and Social Security Poor Relief, whether us as colleagues, as MPs, can make recommendations to reach out to that segment, the segment that is in the informal economy, that wake up in the morning to hustle to make sure them can eat in the evening. That sector needs help more now than ever before. Many of them, I like your optimism about the 80% of people back at work, but for inner city urban constituencies like mine, tourism don't impact us positively. So persons who would depend on entertainment and nightlife and those things have just had zero for 15 months. Those people need an intervention. So I put that to you, Minister Crowe.
Speaker, Minister, Madam Speaker, Minister, just before you come to respond, could you also address the situation confronting the Go Digital program affecting the MSME sector?
Thank you, Member, for those questions and for the support of the initiatives. The first thing, Madam Speaker, is that it takes community to really be successful, and the success of the CARE program relied on a huge collaborative effort, which included lots of intermediaries who helped to sign people up. I think that we're going to need a similar kind of collaboration for this program, particularly with taking information off of the card and entering it into the device. The good news is that there'll be lots of time for the application to take place. Now, the Ministry of Health maintains a real-time electronic database system on all persons who have been vaccinated. They can tell you at 3 o'clock in the afternoon the total number of persons who have been vaccinated, the batch numbers, the age, the ranges, etc. So that part is pretty well secure. What we have to ensure is that persons can upload their information on their card into the system. And that is we're going to have a public education drive on it, showing people where on the card to find that information, how to upload it. You can use your mobile phone, your laptop, your any device that is internet enabled. And we're going to encourage members of parliament and other community-based organizations to step in and help persons to sign up. With respect to collection, we had a very good experience with the CARE program. You'll recall that the CARE program disbursed through various means approximately $20 billion, of which $14 billion came through the portal, meaning the electronic access. Some of it went, as you know, through the Ministry of Labour directly, or through the Ministry of Gender or the Ministry of Tourism, but $14 billion went through the electronic application process. And of that $14 billion, it was only $300 million that remained uncollected, which is an uncollected balance of 2%, of 2.1%, which by any practical means is good going. We're not going to expect the collection to be more than 98% or thereabouts. Because we have the persons submit their telephone numbers and so on, the program can communicate directly with them, reminders, and get persons to come and collect. And the experience that we had through the CARE program was that persons were responsive to being texted. And as I said, we had 98% of the funds that were sent to be collected, that they were indeed collected. I totally accept the point that there are other groups in the society. Today we spoke about the over 60 with respect to the vaccination, and we spoke about the demographic group consisting of persons who were employed prior to the onset of the pandemic and who lost their jobs because of the pandemic, and are particularly vulnerable because they would have had commitments that were based on their income, and without warning that income disappeared. And there's a particular, what we don't want is for the dislocation in the society, any amount that exists, for it to increase. And that is what was threatened by having persons who were gainfully employed suddenly becoming absolutely, vulnerable and most likely not having savings to depend on. And that was a particularly, I was very attuned to the negative social consequences of that, of persons who are employed and are playing by the rules, doing all the right thing, have their job, and all of a sudden their lives are turned upside down. And then the inability for industry to restart if the social decay happens too quickly and persons are just no longer in an employable position. And that's why we have, definitely wanted to ensure that we supported this group of persons who lost their jobs and, due to no fault of their own, and very proud of the fact that 55,000 of them have received, monthly payments from the government. However, it is also the case that there are other pockets of vulnerability that we have to keep addressing. And the government of Jamaica has a $25 billion social support program overall, meaning PATH, and if you look at all the government sort of programs on the social side. But we have to pay keen attention. And to the extent that we are able to, your advocacy, shared. I'm the biggest advocate for ensuring that the vulnerable populations are indeed protected. Here today, I am just implementing what we announced in our budget presentation. To the extent that that room exists, we will seek to supplement and ensure that other vulnerable groups continue to be in receipt of support. But I want to thank the Speaker and members of the House for your... Oh, sorry, you asked a question on which is outside of my statement, but I will oblige. The member Speaker, with your permission, asked a statement about the Go Digital program. Yeah, that's a program where we are encouraging small businesses to digitize their front office, to go online with their front office, right? So that, it's absolutely critical. It increases productivity. More things can happen per unit time. You can get more done in an hour if you can just go online. So the state has an interest in that. And what we're doing is we're providing $1 billion to the Development Bank of Jamaica, $1 billion, so that they can provide two things. One, there's a grant of $200,000 to any small business that applies to the program and says, look, I want to convert my front end to have a digital. So I have my physical storefront and I have a digital storefront, right? Anybody who applies, $200,000 for that business. And then a top-up of $800,000 in a loan, 2% interest. So $1 million to any small business that wants to put their front end electronically. And then the DBJ has pre-selected vendors, IT vendors, right? And pre-selected IT vendors who they will match the small business with. There's not a matter of giving you $1 million and you go about your business. They have pre-selected vendors. These 25 vendors have the right programs in place that can convert the small business. Go to one of them, here's the voucher, and it's happening. No, the program has been launched. It's on the DBJ website. We need to market it some more and make sure more small businesses are aware of it. But it is important to convert what is a part of digitizing the economy. And I must say, give credit where it's due, the COVID-19 Economic Recovery Task Force is where this idea came from, and the sub-task force chaired by Minister, the New Economy Task Force, it was you, right? Yeah, chaired by Minister Williams and the team of private public persons who were on that committee, came up with this initiative. It had a broad base of support in the society, and so we have implemented it, and it's there for all small businesses to access. We just have to advertise it a little more.
Website.
Yeah. Have I answered your question?
Minister, you've sort of refreshed the memories for those who didn't remember and know what the program is, but there's been a number of complaints about accessing the program through the DBJ. So, there seems to be a problem that doesn't sync with your understanding as to where things are.
Yeah, so, there's policy, and then there is implementation of policy, right? So, with that feedback, we'll, obviously, we will take a look and make sure the implementation is consistent with the policy intent. But I just took the opportunity to explain the policy. Right? Absolutely. There's $1 billion. I do not want to take it back at the end of the year. Okay, you hear me saying it. That money should not come back to the consult fund. It should be. We want that can finance. Huh? Thank you for pointing it out. Thank you for pointing it out. Yeah.
Madam Speaker, the continuation of the debate on the two bills that the Minister of Justice introduced in this House will now be facilitated, and the Speaker is expected to be the Leader of the Opposition and Member for South St. Andrew. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Golding.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to make a contribution in the debate on two bills brought to the House by the Minister of Justice, those being the Judicature Appellate Jurisdiction Amendment Bill 2021 and the other being the Judicature Parish Courts Amendment Bill 2021. Madam Speaker, these bills provide for prosecutors to have rights of appeal in certain circumstances, and broadly, they have my support insofar as they deal with specific issues which, when we were in government, I had initiated as Minister of Justice at the time, though the actual legislation hadn't reached the point of going back to Cabinet for Legislation Committee. It was in a drafting stage. And 5 years later, they're being tabled here. Essentially, the issues that led to me taking those submissions to Cabinet back then were essentially a concern about a situation in which persons could be convicted of serious offenses, or rather acquitted of serious offenses, and the double jeopardy rule would not allow them to be retried if it was subsequently established either that their acquittal was a result of some, what I would call, obstruction of justice type offense having occurred. In the legislation, in the bills, they're referred to administration of justice offenses. But thinking about it, I think a better term for it would have been obstruction of justice offenses having occurred. For example, as a result of a key witness having been killed or intimidated, or jurors having been bribed, judicial officers having been bribed or threatened, anything of that nature, perjury, lies having been told in court which can be proved beyond reasonable doubt, or have been proved beyond reasonable doubt, through a perjury charge as having led to the acquittal of the accused person. And also the possibility that where new and compelling evidence becomes available, which indicates in highly probative terms that the person who was acquitted was in fact guilty, and that information was not available at the time of the trial and could not have been available even if reasonable efforts and diligence had been demonstrated by the investigators and prosecutors at that time. If that new and compelling evidence ought to be available to the justice process so as to ensure that the person is held accountable for ultimately what they originally did. Those are the two main circumstances. The other was where an acquittal resulted from a point of law in the case arising, which is in fact disputed by the prosecution, and affording an opportunity for that point of law to be determined by the Court of Appeal, or ultimately the highest court if necessary. And insofar as that ruling of law which may have led to the acquittal is found to be flawed and wrong, the matter could be retried. And this does happen from time to time. And I also want to thank the Minister for having shared with me my own cabinet submissions at that time, which reminded me of what was in my mind then when we brought these matters to cabinet at the time. For example, the case of Millicent Forbes versus the Attorney General of Jamaica, which went to the UK Privy Council. That was a case where a 13-year-old girl was allegedly shot and killed by a member of a party of police officers who were on duty. And one of the policemen was indicted for murder. At the preliminary inquiry and during the trial, certain disturbing events reportedly took place, such as the harassment of the victim's family, intimidation of witnesses, and material evidence going missing. The circuit court was also misled that a material witness was unavailable to testify because he was off the island. And all of this resulted in the prosecution offering no evidence against the accused person and the judge directing the jury to enter a verdict of not guilty. However, a few days after the case was dismissed, it was revealed that the material witness had in fact returned to the island and would have been available. And in those circumstances, even an attempt was made to take the matter to the Court of Appeal to have a retrial ordered, but the law as it stands today would not permit of that. And that offended certainly my conscience, and I think many other persons. Other jurisdictions have, including some in our own region and some overseas who we share a similar legal tradition with, UK, Australia, for example, and more closer to home, several CARICOM states have introduced legislation like this. So those were the main grounds, those were the grounds on which I had brought submissions to Cabinet seeking to have drafting instructions issued to enable legislation to be brought to give a limited right of appeal to the prosecution in limited circumstances, essentially those circumstances. There was also the question of sentencing, and I felt that on the issue of sentence, there ought to be an opportunity for the Court of Appeal to review a sentence in two circumstances. Firstly, where the sentence that was imposed by the court, the trial court, was not one that the law permits. It was essentially a sentence that was flawed as being an error of law. And the second circumstance is where the sentence was manifestly inadequate and would offend the conscience of the nation. And in those circumstances, we felt that the prosecution ought to have the ability to have the Court of Appeal revisit the sentencing issue to see whether a more appropriate sentence should be imposed. Now, the bills that have been brought here by the minister do that, but they also go further. And I have some concerns about how far they go. So, first of all, I think it's important to note that the way that prosecutor has been defined in this legislation doesn't just include the DPP or indeed the Director of Corruption Prosecutions that now exists as an officer within the Integrity Commission, and the Director General of MOCA, who now has prosecutorial powers in respect of matters being investigated by MOCA, but also includes persons to whom the DPP gives a fiat. That would be somebody in the private sector, typically, who is prosecuting the case, and indeed a private individual who chooses to bring a prosecution against another person. So that is a much broader conception of who can appeal a verdict of acquittal than certainly I had in mind at the time. Secondly, there is no requirement in the bill that the Court of Appeal must be satisfied that the acquittal has resulted in a substantial miscarriage of justice. That was a principle which was embodied in the submission that I had brought to Cabinet, but has not made its way into these bills. So, in the way it had been formulated by me at the time, the Court of Appeal could only set aside the acquittal verdict if it was satisfied that that acquittal had resulted in a substantial miscarriage of justice. It is not in every instance that that would happen. And in fact, there is a reverse where sometimes a defendant who is convicted can appeal and win on a technicality in the appeal, but the Court of Appeal can apply what's called a proviso. And what that is the Court of Appeal may nevertheless not allow the appeal because no substantial miscarriage of justice has occurred. So that principle has not found its way into these bills, and I think that it ought to have been part of it. On the issue of appeals where there's new and compelling evidence, the provision in the bill, which is a new Section 7A of the Criminal Justice Administration Act, it says that it applies where a person has been acquitted. A question for you, Minister, is whether this is intended to include not only where the matter went to the conclusion of the case and a jury, if it's tried by a jury, or the judge, if it's tried by a judge alone, finds a person not guilty, but does it also include where the indictment has been quashed or stayed, or the case has been withdrawn from the jury, or where no case submission has been upheld, or where indeed there's been any other termination of the case without a verdict. I think it's important to ask that question because in the section dealing with administration of justice offenses, which I think should be renamed, something that I think rings close to what we're talking about, like interference with justice or obstructing justice offenses. But those include all of those methods of a case coming to an end in favor of the accused person. The right to appeal applies in all of those instances. But in the new and compelling evidence case, it only mentions an acquittal without making it clear that that would include all that clutch of different possible ways in which the trial may have come to an end. So I think you should have a look at that, Minister. There is a provision in the new Section 7A, big A, subsection 7, paragraph A. It states that it is irrelevant whether the new and compelling evidence would have been admissible in earlier proceedings against the defendant. I have a big problem with that. I can't see why evidence which would have been inadmissible in the earlier proceedings can now be a basis for setting aside the acquittal and ordering a retrial. I have a big problem with that. And that is 7A, subsection 7, paragraph A. Looking at 7A, subsections 2 and 6, they both apply the yardstick of whether it is in the public interest for the case to be retried. The provisions make no mention of the interests of justice. My formulation in the submission required for this appeal procedure to be allowed, the Court of Appeal must be satisfied that it is in the interests of justice to allow the appeal. We've moved away from the desire to do justice in the particular case, which is the critical role of a court in criminal proceedings, to what the public interest may be. And I don't think public interest considerations should be introduced into a matter between the prosecution and the defendant. I think that's a wrong approach. In criminal proceedings affecting the rights of the individual, justice to the acquitted person cannot be and should not be subordinated to the public interest. I don't like this as a principle feeding into our criminal law. I think it's dangerous. And that wasn't the way it was formulated in the submissions that I brought to Cabinet. In Section 7A, subsection 7, paragraph, I think it's 1, little 1, Roman 1. If the existing circumstances make a fair trial unlikely, that should be an absolute bar to the Court of Appeal ordering a retrial. It should not just be one of the factors that go into determining whether or not it is in the public interest to retry the case. I'm going to say that again. In 7A, subsection 7, where they talk about they give examples of what might make it in the public interest to have a retrial. And one of them, the first one I think it is, says if the existing circumstances make a fair trial unlikely. Now, to me, that can't just be one factor. That should be an absolute bar to any retrial. If there cannot be a fair trial at the retrial, that's the end of the matter. It can't go any further. It can't just be one of us competing factors taken into account. And I noticed that in 7A, subsection 7, there's no specific reference to whether or not witnesses are still available, the condition of the original physical evidence that had been used in the trial, what is the condition of that evidence, and so on. In the submission I had brought to Cabinet, both of those were factors that were specifically had to be taken into account in deciding whether or not a retrial should be ordered. There's no mention of them in the bills. I have a matrix, Minister, that I spent most of yesterday doing, so I'm going to send it to you so you can have the benefit of it. On the question of point of law, this is where I have, I think, my biggest departure from the bills. In the submissions I had brought to Cabinet, I had contemplated a right of appeal on a point of law by the prosecution. I think that's appropriate, because if the law has been wrongly applied, or if the law needs to be, if it's a common law matter, which often is the case, and the law needs to be considered again and taken in a different direction in response to changing circumstances, or earlier court may have gone down the wrong road, I think it's important that the Court of Appeal have an opportunity to correct it. But this bill, or these bills, go beyond just a point of law and talk about an appeal against any point of mixed law and fact. Now, issues of fact are quintessentially matters for the tribunal of fact, which is a jury, or in a case tried by a judge alone, the judge who sees the witnesses and hears the evidence. I don't like this idea of giving the prosecution a right of appeal on any point of mixed law and fact. For one, that is a notoriously nebulous formulation. It's notoriously unclear what it means. And to me, it transgresses into the province of the jury or the judge, in the case of a trial by judge alone, as a final arbiter of all issues of fact in the case. I do not like the expansion of this formulation beyond pure issues of law. I also think that, again, in relation to the point of law right of appeal, there's no requirement to satisfy the Court of Appeal that the acquittal resulted in a substantial miscarriage of justice. Again, that was a requirement in the submissions that I had brought to Cabinet. For the appeal to be allowed and a matter retried, that hurdle always had to be crossed by the prosecution. It has been left out in relation to the point of law and the point of mixed law and fact matter, and I think it should be inserted as a requirement that must be met before any appeal can be allowed. The acquittal must be, the Court of Appeal must be satisfied that the acquittal has resulted in a substantial miscarriage of justice. Mr. Minister, I'm looking at 18A, subsection 4, paragraph A. I noticed that leave is not required for an appeal against a decision of a trial judge on any point of law. So you don't need leave from the Court of Appeal to make that application. And I'm a little surprised about that. In 18.5a, it says the Court of Appeal may grant leave from a decision of the trial judge on any point of mixed law and fact, if the Court of Appeal thinks fit. So it is not necessary to show that the decision resulted in the acquittal happening or resulted in a substantial miscarriage of justice. And there's no need for the Court of Appeal to be satisfied that there has not been a lapse of time or other factor making it contrary to the interests of justice to permit the appeal to go ahead. And there's no need to give the respondent, who would be the person who had been acquitted, the opportunity to make a written representation to the Court of Appeal in connection with the application for leave. These issues arise in relation to the appeal on points of law or mixed law and fact, where it says the grant of leave is simply if the Court of Appeal thinks fit, without establishing what threshold must be met before they grant leave. And I think that, I don't like that formulation. I think it's inadequate. Moving to the issue of appeals against sentence, the new 18A makes it clear, well, makes it unclear actually. 18A 4A says that leave is not required for an appeal against sentence that is based on the Supreme Court not having had the power to impose that sentence. But then 18.6 suggests that leave must be applied for. The two don't sit harmoniously, Minister, between 18A 4A and 18A 6. 18A 4A suggests that leave is not required for an appeal against sentence based on a sentence that wasn't lawfully imposed. But 18A 6 suggests that you do, sorry, that leave is not required. The former 4A suggests that it is required, and 6A suggests that it isn't. I think that in 18A6, it should simply say that rather than have the way it is formulated now, and I should just refresh my memory on the specific formulation of it so I can be more helpful in my submission to you. Yes. Subsection 6 says, the court may grant an application for leave to appeal under subsection 2B if the court is satisfied that A, the trial judge erred in law as to the court's power of sentencing, and that's the inconsistency because it already says in 4A that leave is not required in that instance. And it goes on to say, or the sentence concerned is materially less than the generally expected and accepted level of sentence for the offense committed, having regard to the sentencing guidelines, if any, and the circumstances surrounding the offense. I think that formulation in 6B should just run from the chapeau in 6 directly to make it one provision, because the provision about if the trial judge erred in law as to the power of sentencing is really misplaced, because it's already said earlier that you don't need leave in those circumstances. And another point, and this is in relation to 18A subsection 8, it does not require the sentence substituted by the Court of Appeal to be one which the trial judge had power to impose. It simply says that the Court of Appeal can substitute such sentence as a court considers appropriate. But that must be circumscribed by the law that would have limited what the trial judge could have imposed by way of sentence. It can't be completely at large for the Court of Appeal to do whatever it wants. And I think that was in the original submission that I had made to Cabinet, but it didn't find its way into the bill. So I do think it's important that whatever substitute sentence the Court of Appeal imposes, it must be one which the trial judge would have had power to impose. And Minister, I'm moving to clause 4 of the bill, inserting a new, or rather amending section 21 of the Principal Act. And the new words that are being inserted in substitution for the existing words talk about any decision referred to in section 18A. It uses those words, any decision referred to in section 18A. And I think it ought to be more specific by saying any decision referred to in section 18A 2A. That is the only decision. In 18A is a big section. It spans several pages. But the decision being referred to in this clause, in this amendment to section 21 of the Principal Act, is the decision referred to in 18.2a. And that, just to be clear, that is a decision on a point of law or that there has been an administration of justice offense. So it should be more specific in its reference, I think. And the new section 23A, which is inserted into the Principal Act by clause 5, speaks to the new subsection 4 says that this is dealing with references to the Court of Appeal by the prosecutor. It's a little different it's different to an appeal by the prosecution, because subsection 4 makes it clear that the reference shall not affect the trial in relation to which the reference is made or any acquittal. So this is not going to affect the outcome of the case that has been concluded at trial. This is a reference that may result in clarification of the law going forward. And it's a good provision. But given that it cannot affect the outcome of the case that's already been tried, if the prosecutor is an attorney to whom the DPP has granted a fiat to prosecute, or is a private individual who initiated a private prosecution of the case. I think that reference to the Court of Appeal should have to require the consent of the DPP to go forward. I don't think private litigants should just be able to refer matters like that to the Court of Appeal. No, if you look at this, it does not. Yes, I'm absolutely sure. And I urge you to have a look at it, because the way in which prosecutor is defined is in this section is a very wide way in which it's defined in 18A, which I already alluded to. And then it says that the prosecutor can refer a matter to the Court of Appeal, but it doesn't say that you need the DPP's consent to do that. And I just think the idea, since you're really trying to, as it were, have the law restated and clarified for the benefit of the public, I think the DPP should be the private litigant who wants to do that should seek the DPP's consent. Otherwise, you could have, you know, the kind of people, we get emailed all the time by some of these people who are a bit wacky, and I think that they could waste the court's time and they could waste judicial time if they don't need the DPP's consent to do this.
When I checked on that, because I thought everyone needed the DPP consent.
No, not for the Section 23A references. Okay. Yeah. And so I suggest you look at that. And in the amendment to the Legal Aid Act, which is Clause 6 of the bill, it amends Section 15 of the Legal Aid Act. I think it should be made clear that the prosecutor, as defined there, has a meaning assigned to it in Section 18A of the Judicature Appellate Jurisdiction Act, or 292B of the Judicature Parish Courts Act, because it doesn't say what the prosecutor is in this instance, and I think that expansive definition ought to apply so that the person whose acquittal is being appealed against can get legal aid, regardless of whether it is any one of the 5 categories of prosecutor, just to make it clear that that's what prosecutors intended to mean in that amendment to the Legal Aid Act. The new Section 7 that's being inserted into the Criminal Justice Administration Act by Clause 6.2b. The Director of Corruption Prosecutions and the Director General or other prosecuting officer appointed under Section 19 of the MOCA Act should not require, in my opinion, the DPP's consent before they can proceed. Because, for an application for a retrial under this new Section 7A. I don't think the DPP should be able to stop the Director of Corruption Prosecutions or MOCA invoking the new Section 7A procedure. Those are intended to be independent and autonomous prosecutorial agents, subject only to Section 94 of the Constitution, but not subject to this provision. Sorry. Yeah, I'm nearly finished. Finished.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the member's time be extended by
5 minutes.
10 minutes to allow him to complete.
Thank you.
May it please you, Madam Speaker.
The question is that the member's time be extended to allow him to finish his presentation. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm nearly finished. So yes, the position of the DPP under Section 94 of the Constitution to end any criminal proceedings is paramount. What I am not happy about is this provision in 7A, which suggests that you need the DPP's consent in order to initiate the process of seeking a retrial, where it is the Director of Corruption Prosecutions or the MOCA prosecutor. I think either of them should be able to invoke this procedure, and the DPP's consent should not be required for that. And I have good reason for saying so. There's a good reason why they're independent prosecutors. No, it's a different section. And so, Minister, all of the comments I've made which were all in relation to the Judicature Appellate Jurisdiction Amendment Bill, all apply in like measure to the Judicature Parish Courts Amendment Bill. The same issues arise in both bills. And the one technical point I would point out to you is that the new Section 292B of the Parish Court Bill, a new subsection needs to be inserted after subsection 5. That is equivalent to the Section 18 big A subsection 6 in the Appellate Jurisdiction Bill, with the amendments that I proposed to that. It seems to have been left out of the Parish Courts Bill. That's the subsection 6 provision as amended. So, this is to do with the appeal provision in the Parish Court, the new appeal section. Yeah. I can't hear what you're saying, but I'm just saying that there's a new section dealing with appeals by the prosecution in the parish courts. It's 292 big B. And there's one of the provisions in 18A, which is dealing with the regime, which is this one section, the equivalent of subsection 6, didn't make it into the parish court provision, and I think that was an oversight. So I think I'll just bring it to your attention, Minister. So I think it should also be made clear that the parish court bill is not only dealing with rights of appeal against acquittals, that are rights being given to the prosecution, and other procedures of that nature, but is also restating a number of sections dealing with the defendant's right of appeal. So if you look at it from 293 through to 305, sections 293 right through to sections 305 are all being repealed and replaced. And those all deal with the defendant's right of appeal. And I must confess, I haven't gone back and looked at what the provisions are that are being deleted and what we're replacing them with. But I did read the new ones, and there are a couple of things I want to bring to your attention on that. In the new 296, this is the Parish Courts Bill now, in the new section 296, 2B, it says that if a new trial is ordered, no greater punishment shall be imposed in the event of a conviction at the new trial than was inflicted at the first trial. And I was a little perturbed about that, to be honest, because let us say it's a parish court matter, the maximum sentence is 5 years. The person got 3 months, chose to appeal. A retrial was ordered because there was an administration of justice offense or whatever, any other ground that is allowed. What this is saying is that under retrial, his risk is limited to, he cannot get more than 6 months, even though the offense itself carries up to 5 years. Supposing evidence is brought that suggests that a more stiff sentence is appropriate. I don't understand 2B in the 296. Have a look at that for me, please, Minister. And the other two small points. In 297, subsection 1, I think the last words in paragraph B ought to go back to the margin, the words to the clerk of courts of the parish. I think those apply to both A and B. Just need to be moved back to margin. That's 297 subsection 1. In 299, in subsection 4 of 299, there's a reference to subsection 2 at the end in subsection 4, it ends with the word subsection 2. I think that's a wrong reference. It should be subsection 1. And then I note the new clause 300 that says that the clerks of the court shall, not later than 14 days after the receipt of the notice of appeal, forward to the registrar of the Court of Appeal the notes of evidence or a copy thereof. 14 days. Well, we all know how that really goes in practice and how long it often takes to compile these notes of evidence. And that is a major source of delay in the system of appeals. So I'm not sure 300 paragraph A, whether you might want to reconsider that, Minister, because it seems unrealistic. And the last point I have to make is Section 304 says that no appeal shall be allowed for any error or defect in form or substance appearing in any indictment or information referred to in Section 292B2 or 293 where there's been a conviction. I don't think that section should refer to 292B at all. 1 second, 292B is where the prosecution is appealing against an acquittal, whereas 304 is dealing with appeals against conviction. So I don't think the reference to 292B ought to be in 304. 304 is a section that all of these sections from 293 up to the end of the bill are all dealing with the rights of appeal of an accused person who has been convicted. So I think that reference is wrong. So, Madam Speaker, I just want to reiterate that I accept the principle of where convictions, or rather acquittals, where acquittals are tainted because they were obtained due to an obstruction of justice offense or an interference with justice offense. Whatever, I don't like this administration of justice offense. I think to the average person, the administration of justice isn't sufficiently direct in what it's talking about. We're talking about interfering with witnesses, killing witnesses, bribing witnesses, etc. And where an acquittal has been obtained as a result of that type of activity, and it is proven in a court of law to be the case, I think that the acquittal should not have to stand. And I accept that principle. I know. But on reading it again, I don't think it's the right phrase. Yeah. No, I agree. And then the point of law appeal, I accept, because I think if the law has been wrongly applied and it led to an acquittal, there should be an avenue for correcting that in an appeal. But this mixed law and fact, not happy with that at all. And the other factors that I've talked about, where the interests of justice rather than the public interest should be what defines whether or not a retrial is ordered. I think that's very important in principle. And I think the fact that a substantial miscarriage of justice must be shown to have occurred to the satisfaction of the Court of Appeal before the appeal can be allowed in a retrial order, that principle ought to underlie all of this. Subject to those points and the other technical issues I've raised, Madam Speaker, I have nothing further to say. I note that an editorial in one of the daily newspapers was calling for this legislation to go to a joint select committee. The minister hasn't embarked on that process yet. And I don't know if you've received any written submissions from the bar. I know they have it because I sent them the bills myself, because I thought, quite often, the private bar is not focused on what we're doing in here. And they don't focus on it until after it's become law, sometimes quite a while after. And I think it's important to bring these things to their attention because it's going to impact them and their clients. So I sent them both bills back in April when it was tabled. I'm saddened to hear that you haven't heard from them. But I think I've given you sufficient food for thought that you can, take some time to digest. I'm going to send you the matrix that I've prepared. Sure. And we can take it from there. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I'm not going to close. I'm not closing today. If just a short intervention.
Emphasis on short.
No, yes, I'm not
emphasis on short.
So I'm asking for a suspension of the debate. And during the suspension of the debate, I hope that the leader of the opposition, AG, myself, and others could get together because he has made some very important points, which I would like to correct in the bill so that we can move forward, jointly and pass the bill. So I'll discuss with you immediately after Member Golden. Okay. So as a suspension of the debate.
The question, therefore, before the House is that the bill be suspended until a date to be announced. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The bill is suspended.
Madam Speaker, it is not intended to do any further business for the day. I'd ask that you suspend the debate in relation to the sectoral until next Tuesday, the 15th, when it is expected that the Leader of the House will close the debate and other matters related to this Honourable House will be dealt with.
Mr. House Leader, I don't know if this is appropriate, and I apologize if it's not. But it just occurred to me that we had and I think the Minister alluded to it or mentioned it in her presentation, but the House as a whole hasn't really had a chance to speak to it or to acknowledge it. We had a situation this week in which our sprint champion, Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce, ran what is the second fastest time ever recorded and is a national record. Yeah, but I think the House has to take cognizance of it, and because it is well recognized. It is well recognized that the fastest time, which was set in the 1980s, was at a time when the existing rules, etc., and approach to it wasn't as vigilant as it is now. I'm going to say more than that. So you know, I think it could well be said that this time of 10.63 that was run, the fastest time any Jamaican woman has ever run the 100 meters, and indeed may well be the fastest time, legal time in history, you know. And we have parliamentary privilege in here, so we can say things like that. I think we ought to note it, Madam Speaker, because it is an absolutely tremendous performance. This is an athlete who has had a baby and come back from having her first child and is running a time which she has never, you know, no one, maybe, no normal human being. Well, so it is really a fantastic achievement. And I'm sure everyone in here will join in that sentiment and say to Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce, you have made the nation proud. We love you, we thank you, and we wish you continuing success and glory on behalf of the Jamaican people. Thank you, ma'am.
Madam Speaker, I think that the member has correctly on the motion of adjournment sought to deal with this matter. However, I think it is fair that the member should recall that the minister in her speech made a fulsome reference to this and congratulated Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce on behalf of the government and people of Jamaica. And I think that should stand substantially as a record of Hansard that the minister, on behalf of the government and people of Jamaica, congratulated Shelley-Ann Fraser on her record-breaking performance. May it please you, Madam Speaker, the motion of the adjournment.
Yeah, no. Oh. Madam Speaker, let me. I had no. Well, in this instance,
this is constituent.
Yes, absolutely, yes. And so, Madam Speaker, it wasn't lost on me that the House. First of all, I acknowledge the minister when the minister made the announcement in the House. But as a member of Parliament for the constituency in which Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce grew up and still remain very close to, the people of Western St. Andrew in general, but Waterhouse in particular, would want me to put on record their own congratulation and pride, and to communicate their sense of pride to Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce, who remains, as I said, not just from the community, but she remains a part of that community, working in the community, helping to develop the community and children from her own circumstance. And therefore, it is with a sense of particular pride that the people in Waterhouse receive this performance and note that she remains and she is the fastest woman alive in the world. And so we want to put that on record and to congratulate her. I've said that, and I do. I join with the minister, and I acknowledge, but your intervention sort of, but I acknowledge the minister's announcement and join with her in supporting and congratulating her.
Madam Speaker, I'm happy that the opposition has joined with me in congratulating the fastest woman in the world, a Jamaican who has made Jamaica so very proud. There is no divide when it comes to Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce. And for the record, here she is. We will always honor her. We will always commend her. She has never let us down. Her name was virtually unknown. And then she blossomed into a beautiful woman, a wonderful mother, and a proud ambassador of Jamaica. And so, on the motion for adjournment, I just want to say to you, Madam Speaker, we have some awesome women. We have some awesome women in the Parliament. We have had more women in the Parliament than ever before. And the women in track and field and in sports are outshining the men at this time. It's not a competition in relation, Madam Speaker.
This time around.
It's not a competition in relation to it's not a sexist remark. It's just a fact that at this time, our women
in this moment
are shining in track and field. I know that our men will again shine. At this particular time, it's a cycle. It's a cycle. Madam Speaker, I'm very proud today to be a woman, and a Jamaican woman. And I thank all the women in Parliament and all our outstanding women in Jamaica. I thank them all for making our men very proud. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is that the House be adjourned until next week, Tuesday, June the 15th. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This House is now adjourned.